My name is Victoria Chin, and at 32, I never imagined Christmas dinner would become the most satisfying moment of my life. Sitting at my in-laws' mahogany dining table, surrounded by crystal glasses and family portraits that didn't include me, I watched my husband Marcus nervously adjust his tie. He knew what was coming. We both did. The annual tradition of his mother, Patricia Blackwood, finding new ways to remind me that I didn't belong in their world of old money and older prejudices. But this Christmas would be different. This Christmas the truth would finally come out. Before I tell you exactly how their perfectly orchestrated family dinner turned into the most uncomfortable meal of their privileged lives, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. If you've ever been underestimated because of where you come from or what you look like, this story is for you. Hit that like button because trust me, the revenge in this story is sweeter than Patricia's famous Christmas pudding. I met Marcus 3 years ago at a tech conference in San Francisco. I was there representing the venture capital firm where I worked as a senior analyst, and he was presenting his startup's latest product. What caught my attention wasn't his pitch, though it was solid, but the way he actually listened when I asked technical questions, unlike most entrepreneurs who assumed I was someone's assistant. "You really know your stuff," he said afterward, genuine surprise in his voice. I have an MBA from Wharton and 7 years in venture capital," I replied, handing him my business card. "Victoria Chin and Associates." His eyes widened as he read the card. Chin and Associates wasn't just any firm. We managed over $2 billion in assets and had a reputation for finding the next big thing before anyone else noticed. What he didn't know then, and what his family still didn't know now, was that I wasn't just an employee. I was the Chin and Associates. Our courtship was refreshingly normal. Marcus was kind, intelligent, and driven. Qualities I valued far more than his family's wealth, though I had plenty of my own. He told me about his family gradually, painting them as traditional but loving. His father, Robert, was a retired investment banker. His mother, Patricia, dedicated her life to charity work and maintaining the family's social standing. His sister, Caroline, worked in art curation and lived off her trust fund. "They can be a bit formal," Marcus warned me before our first meeting. "Old East Coast money comes with certain expectations." I understood. I'd grown up in San Francisco's Chinatown, where my parents ran a small import business. Through scholarships, hard work, and strategic investments, I'd built something they couldn't comprehend. Wealth that didn't come with a pedigree or a family crest. The first dinner at the Blackwood estate was exactly what I expected. The Georgian mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut, screamed old money from its marble foyer to its oil paintings of stern-faced ancestors. Patricia greeted me with the kind of smile society matrons perfect in finishing school. Warm on the surface, calculating underneath. "Victoria, how lovely," she said, air-kissing near my cheek. "Marcus tells us you work in finance?" The slight pause before finance was deliberate, as if my career was a hobby I'd eventually outgrow once I secured my real goal, marriage into their family. During dinner, the questions came disguised as polite conversation. Where did I go to school? Wharton, but they somehow missed that detail. What did my parents do? Import business, which they interpreted as shop owners. How did I afford my apartment in the financial district? Investment portfolio, though they assumed Marcus was helping with rent. Caroline, blonde and sharp-tongued like her mother, was more direct. "It must be nice dating someone so established," she said, swirling her wine. "Takes the pressure off, doesn't it?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Caroline." "What?" "I'm just saying it's practical. Victoria's obviously very smart." The backhanded compliment hung in the air like expensive perfume, cloying and impossible to ignore. But I smiled and complimented Caroline's vintage Cartier bracelet, watching her preen at the recognition of her good taste. That night, Marcus apologized profusely. "They'll warm up to you," he promised. "They just need time." 2 years later, when Marcus proposed with his grandmother's engagement ring, a stunning Art Deco piece worth more than most people's cars, I realized they had no intention of warming up to me. The ring came with a lecture from Patricia about family traditions and maintaining certain standards. The wedding planning was a masterclass in subtle exclusion, with Patricia making decisions and then informing me of them later. "We've booked the club for the reception," she announced during one planning session. "It's where all the Blackwood weddings have been held." I thought we discussed the botanical gardens, I said calmly. Oh dear, that's far too public. The club is much more appropriate for our family. Our family. Never your wedding, or Victoria and Marcus's celebration. Always their family, their traditions, their standards. The wedding was beautiful and cold, like a museum exhibit on how proper families celebrate. My parents, proud and slightly overwhelmed, were seated at a back table with distant cousins and college friends. Patricia's friends occupied the prime real estate near the head table, where they could properly observe and judge the proceedings. During the reception, I overheard Patricia explaining my background to the garden club president. She's quite accomplished actually. Works at some investment firm. Not quite our world, but Marcus is happy. Not quite our world. The phrase that would define the next year of my marriage. After the wedding, the subtle campaign to remind me of my place intensified. Family gatherings included casual mentions of ex-girlfriends who were more suitable. Charity events featured introductions that somehow never mentioned my actual job title. Holiday gifts were carefully chosen to reflect what they thought I could afford to reciprocate. Nice enough to seem generous, expensive enough to make me feel inadequate. Marcus, caught between his family and his wife, tried to maintain peace by minimizing the conflicts. You know how my mother is, became his standard response to my frustrations. She means well. But I wasn't naive. I recognized a long-term strategy when I saw one. They were betting that eventually the constant pressure would either break me or break us. What they didn't understand was that I'd been underestimated my entire life, and I'd turned it into a competitive advantage. The breaking point came last Christmas, exactly 1 year after our wedding. We were staying at the family estate for the holidays, a tradition I'd learned was non-negotiable. The house was decorated like a magazine spread. Garland on every banister, wreaths on every door, and a 12-foot tree in the living room that required a ladder to reach the top. Christmas Eve dinner was an elaborate affair with Patricia's signature prime rib, multiple wine courses, and enough crystal to stock a small store. The guest list included family friends, business associates, and several unmarried daughters of Patricia's contemporaries, a not-so-subtle reminder that Marcus had other options. Caroline had brought her newest boyfriend, a hedge fund manager named Preston who spoke in financial jargon and name-dropped his Harvard connections every few minutes. The conversation inevitably turned to business and investments, with Robert holding court about his glory days on Wall Street. The problem with today's market, Robert pontificated, is that everyone thinks they're an investor. Young people especially, they see one success story and think they know something about wealth management. Preston nodded enthusiastically. Absolutely. Real wealth requires experience, connections, generational knowledge. It's not something you can just learn. I felt Marcus tense beside me, recognizing the subtle dig. Caroline smirked from across the table, while Patricia maintained her serene hostess expression. Of course, some people are natural investors, Preston continued, warming to his theme. Marcus, for instance, has excellent instincts. That trust fund your grandmother set up is performing beautifully. Marcus nearly choked on his wine. Preston. What? It's not a secret. Family money, properly managed, is the foundation of real security. Not like these new money types who get lucky with tech stocks and think they're financial geniuses. The room fell silent except for the crackling fireplace. Everyone knew exactly who Preston was referring to, and it wasn't subtle. I could feel the expectation in the air. Would I defend myself, make a scene, prove their point about my unsuitability? Instead, I smiled and took a sip of my wine. Patricia, emboldened by my silence, decided to twist the knife. Well, not everyone can be born into the right circumstances, she said with false sympathy. We all work with what we have. Caroline laughed, a tinkling sound like breaking glass. Some people are just more practical about their choices. Meaning? Marcus asked, his voice warning. Oh, come on, Caroline waved her hand dismissively. Everyone knows why people marry into established families. It's not exactly a secret. The accusation hung in the air, unspoken but unmistakable. Gold digger. The word they'd all been thinking for 3 years but never quite said aloud. Patricia set down her wine glass with deliberate precision. Caroline has a point. Some people marry for love, others for opportunity. There's no shame in being practical. Mother, Marcus started, but she held up a perfectly manicured hand. Let me finish, dear. Victoria is obviously intelligent. She saw an opportunity and took it. That's admirable in its way. But let's not pretend this marriage is about anything other than financial security. The room was completely silent now. Even the fire seemed to have stopped crackling. Robert cleared his throat uncomfortably, while Preston looked like he was watching a tennis match, his head swiveling between participants. She's just a gold digger, Patricia announced, her voice carrying the finality of a judge's verdict. Marrying for money. We all know it, even if we're too polite to say it. I smiled and said, actually, I'm the one who set up his trust fund. The champagne glasses stopped clinking. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Even the grandfather clock in the corner seemed to have frozen in time. I'm sorry. Patricia's composure cracked just slightly. I reached for my purse, a vintage Hermes that Patricia had once commented was a good replica, and pulled out a leather portfolio. I said, I'm the one who set up Marcus's trust fund. Would you like to see the paperwork? Marcus stared at me with a mixture of shock and dawning realization. He'd never asked detailed questions about his trust fund, assuming it was another family arrangement he didn't need to understand. I opened the portfolio and laid out the documents on Patricia's pristine white tablecloth. Trust agreements, investment statements, and incorporation papers, all bearing the seal of Chin and Associates and my signature as the managing partner. The Blackwood Family Trust, I read aloud, established January 15, 2019, with an initial investment of $5.2 million, currently valued at $8.7 million thanks to strategic investments in emerging technologies and cryptocurrency. Robert leaned forward, his face pale. That's impossible. Our family attorney referred you to Chin and Associates when you needed someone to restructure Marcus's inheritance for tax purposes, I continued. I handled the entire transaction personally, though I worked under my associate's name to avoid any appearance of conflict of interest once Marcus and I started dating. I pulled out another set of documents. These are the quarterly reports I've been sending to your family attorney. Performance summaries, investment strategies, projected growth. I've been managing your son's money for 4 years and quite successfully, I might add. Caroline's mouth opened and closed like a fish. But, you work for someone else. I work for myself. Chin and Associates is my firm. I founded it 8 years ago with $500,000 of my own money I made day trading while I was getting my MBA. I smiled at her shocked expression. That replica Hermes bag you mentioned? I bought it with my first million. Preston, ever the hedge fund manager, was the first to recover. Wait, you're saying you manage the Blackwood Trust? The one that's been outperforming the S&P by 12% annually. 14% actually, if you count the cryptocurrency positions I established in 2020. The silence stretched on. I could hear Patricia's careful breathing, Robert's nervous finger tapping, and somewhere in the distance, the kitchen staff cleaning up from dinner service. Marcus found his voice first. Victoria, why didn't you tell me? I tried to keep our personal and professional lives separate. Your family hired me before we met, and I thought it might be awkward if you knew I was managing your money while we were dating. But after we got married, your family made it very clear that they thought I was only interested in your money. It seemed like telling them I was already managing it might complicate things. Patricia finally managed to speak. You can't be serious. I pulled out my phone and showed her the Chin and Associates website, with my photo prominently displayed as founder and CEO. Then I scrolled to our client testimonials, where the Blackwood family attorney had written a glowing review of our innovative strategies and exceptional returns. Your attorney has been recommending us to his other clients for 3 years, I said. We currently manage over $2 billion in assets for families just like yours. The truth was sinking in, and I could see the calculations happening behind their eyes. All this time they'd been treating me like some opportunistic outsider while I was quietly making them money. A lot of money. Robert cleared his throat. The Christmas bonus, the one that paid for Caroline's new car, came from the cryptocurrency profits I generated last quarter, I confirmed. I've been reinvesting the gains to diversify the portfolio, but your attorney suggested distributing some of the profits for tax purposes. Caroline, who had been silent since the revelation began, finally found her voice. So when you complimented my Cartier bracelet at that first dinner, I was being polite. I own the same one in 3 different metals. Preston, apparently unable to help himself, blurted out, "What's your net worth?" Marcus shot him a look, but I answered anyway. "Personal assets or firm assets?" "Personal. Around $47 million, give or take a few million depending on market fluctuations." The number hung in the air like a challenge. To put it in perspective, the Blackwood family's total wealth, including their house, investments, and Marcus's trust fund, was approximately $15 million. I wasn't just rich. I was significantly richer than they were. Patricia's wine glass trembled slightly in her hand. "But, your parents, the import business, is worth about $12 million now. I helped them expand into online retail 5 years ago. They were nervous about the investment, but I guaranteed the loan personally." I smiled at the memory. "They're actually thinking about retiring to that house they bought in Napa. The one with the view of the valley." The evening that had started with subtle insults about my background had turned into a financial disclosure that reframed every interaction we'd ever had. Every time they talked down to me, every assumption about my motives, every carefully worded insult, all of it had been based on a fundamental misunderstanding of who I was and what I brought to their family. Marcus was staring at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "Victoria, I had no idea." "I know. And I should have told you sooner. But honestly..." I looked around the table at their shocked faces. I was curious to see how long this would go on. How long your family would keep treating me like some kind of opportunist while I was quietly making them wealthier than they'd ever been. Robert found his voice. "The advisory fees. How much have we been paying you?" 2% annually on managed assets. Standard rate for high net worth clients. I pulled out my calculator app. On an $8.7 million portfolio, that's about $174,000 per year. But considering I've grown your initial investment by 67% in 4 years, I'd say you've gotten excellent value. The math was brutal and undeniable. Not only had they been wrong about my motivations, but they'd been paying me handsomely for the privilege of being wrong. Caroline, who had built her entire identity around having more than others, looked like she was going to be sick. "So when you said you couldn't afford the charity gala table last year..." I said I hadn't budgeted for it. There's a difference. I prefer to research charities thoroughly before making large donations. Unlike some people, I don't give money just to be seen giving money. It was a direct hit and Caroline flinched. Her charity work was entirely performative, all about the social aspects and none about the actual causes. Patricia, meanwhile, was going through what looked like all 5 stages of grief simultaneously. "But the wedding, you let us pay for everything. You insisted on paying for everything. Every time I offered to contribute, you said it was family tradition for the bride's family to handle the flowers and the groom's family to handle the venue. I wrote a check for $50,000 to cover my parents' portion and offered to pay for the honeymoon. You declined." Marcus looked confused. "I thought your parents paid for the flowers." "I reimbursed them that night. They were nervous about the expense, but I didn't want to embarrass them by insisting on paying directly." The true scope of the misunderstanding was becoming clear. While they'd been plotting to make me feel inferior, I'd been quietly managing their money and protecting my parents' dignity. Every slight, every subtle insult, every assumption had been not just wrong but spectacularly wrong. Preston, still fixated on the financial implications, leaned forward. "What about the prenup? Did you sign one?" The question was incredibly rude, but it cut to the heart of what everyone was thinking. Patricia perked up slightly. Surely they'd protected themselves with legal documentation. Marcus answered before I could. "We didn't sign a prenup. Victoria said she didn't need one." "Because I didn't," I added. "My assets are in a family trust that predates our marriage. Marcus couldn't touch them even if he wanted to." I paused for effect. "But if we divorced, he'd lose access to his trust fund management. I suppose he'd have to find another investment advisor." The implication was clear. I held all the cards and I always had. Robert, ever the practical businessman, was the first to grasp the full situation. "So you're saying, this entire time, you've been managing your family's money while your family questioned my motives for marrying your son?" "Yes." I closed the portfolio and slipped it back into my purse. "It's been an interesting 3 years." The silence that followed was different from the earlier shock. This was the silence of people recalculating everything they thought they knew, realizing that every assumption had been not just wrong but embarrassingly wrong. Marcus reached for my hand under the table. "I'm so sorry, Victoria. I should have defended you more. I should have told them." "Told them what?" "You didn't know either." I squeezed his hand. "But you never treated me like they did. You never questioned my motives or made me feel like I didn't belong." It was true. Marcus had his flaws, but he'd never been calculating or cruel like his family. He'd simply been raised in a world where certain assumptions went unquestioned. Patricia was still processing, her perfect hostess facade cracking visibly. "All those times when you said I wasn't quite your world. When you suggested I was marrying for money. When you seated my parents at the back of the reception." I kept my voice level, professional. "I remember." Caroline buried her face in her hands. "Oh God, the Hermes comment. Among others." The grandfather clock chimed 10 times, marking the official end of what was supposed to be a pleasant family Christmas Eve dinner. Instead, it had become a reckoning 3 years in the making. Preston, apparently incapable of reading the room, asked, "So what happens now? Do you fire them as clients?" It was Marcus who answered, his voice firm. "That's enough, Preston. This is a family matter." But I was curious about the same thing. What did happen now? I'd spent 3 years being quietly insulted while professionally managing their money. The situation was unprecedented in my experience. "I don't fire clients for personal reasons," I said finally. "Your portfolio is performing well, and I have a fiduciary responsibility to maintain that performance regardless of other circumstances." Robert nodded slowly. "That's very professional of you." "I am a professional. I always have been." The evening concluded with the kind of awkward politeness that follows a social disaster. Gifts were exchanged with forced smiles and minimal conversation. Patricia's famous Christmas pudding sat largely untouched as everyone found reasons to retire early. In our bedroom that night, Marcus sat on the edge of the bed with his head in his hands. "I feel like I don't know anything anymore." I sat beside him, still wearing the pearl necklace my parents had given me for Christmas. Real pearls, cultured in Japan, worth more than Caroline's car. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. How long have you been? Why didn't you tell me?" So I told him. About starting with $500,000 in savings and turning it into millions through careful investments and strategic risks. About building a client base through referrals and reputation rather than family connections. About the satisfaction of being recognized for expertise rather than background. When your family hired me, I was already successful. When we met, I was already wealthy. When we married, I was already established in ways they never bothered to discover. Marcus was quiet for a long time. "I failed you," he said finally. "I let them treat you that way for 3 years. You couldn't defend against accusations you didn't know were being made. But I could see how they treated you. I knew it was wrong, and I chose peace over protection." It was the most honest thing he'd said in months, and I respected him for it. "What would you have done differently?" "I would have told them about your success from the beginning. I would have corrected their assumptions instead of letting them fester. I would have made it clear that you didn't need our money, you were already making it. And now." He really looked at me for the first time in our marriage. "Now I understand why you never seemed intimidated by them. You were never the one at a disadvantage." The next morning, Christmas Day, began with an awkward family breakfast. Patricia had clearly been up all night, probably researching Chin and Associates and confirming that everything I'd told them was true. Her usual confident demeanor was replaced by nervous energy and overcompensation. "Victoria, dear, would you like more coffee?" she asked for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. "I'm fine, thank you." Robert attempted normal conversation about the weather and local news, but everyone was thinking about the elephant in the room. Caroline remained mostly silent, picking at her eggs Benedict and avoiding eye contact. It was Marcus who finally addressed the situation directly. "I think we need to talk about last night." Patricia's coffee cup rattled against its saucer. "I'm not sure what there is to discuss." "There's plenty to discuss," Marcus said firmly. "Starting with an apology." "Marcus, really, there's no need," I began, but he held up a hand. "There's absolutely a need. My family has spent 3 years treating my wife like she was some kind of opportunist, while she was quietly making us money and keeping her own success private out of discretion. That requires acknowledgement. Robert cleared his throat. We may have misunderstood the situation. You deliberately chose to misunderstand the situation, Marcus corrected. You made assumptions based on prejudice and never bothered to verify them. Caroline finally spoke up. We didn't know. You didn't want to know, Marcus interrupted. You were more comfortable believing Victoria was beneath us than considering she might be our equal or better. The conversation that followed was long overdue. For the first time in 3 years, the family dynamics were honest rather than hidden behind polite society manners. Patricia admitted she'd felt threatened by my confidence and had responded by trying to diminish me. Caroline confessed she'd been jealous of my education and career. Robert acknowledged he'd made assumptions based on outdated prejudices about race and class. It wasn't a complete transformation. Years of ingrained attitudes don't change overnight. But it was a beginning. The most significant change came in Marcus himself. That morning he called his family attorney and requested a meeting to discuss his trust fund management. He wanted to understand his finances better and be more involved in the decision-making process. I've been passive about my own money for too long, he told me as we walked through the gardens behind the house. I want to learn from you, not just benefit from your expertise. It was the conversation we should have had 3 years earlier. Over the following months, our relationship underwent a fundamental shift. Marcus enrolled in investment courses and started attending industry conferences. He didn't try to become an expert overnight, but he engaged with the subject seriously for the first time in his life. More importantly, he began standing up to his family when they slipped back into old patterns. When Patricia made a subtle comment about my different background during Easter dinner, Marcus immediately corrected her. When Caroline suggested I was lucky to have found success so young, he pointed out that luck had nothing to do with years of hard work and strategic thinking. The family dynamics changed too, though more slowly. Patricia began asking my opinion on her own investments and eventually hired Chin and Associates to manage her personal portfolio. Caroline started taking business courses and launched a legitimate art consulting business rather than living entirely off her trust fund. But the most satisfying change was in how they introduced me to others. No more vague references to my working in finance, or being quite accomplished actually. Patricia began telling people I was the founder of Chin and Associates, and Robert would mention our firm's performance when discussing investment strategies with his golf partners. 1 year after that Christmas dinner revelation, we hosted the family gathering at our new home, a contemporary house in Marin County with views of the San Francisco Bay. As I watched Patricia help my mother arrange flowers while Caroline discussed business school applications with my father, I realized the evening had become what it should have been all along. A meeting of equals rather than a performance of hierarchy. Marcus found me on the deck, watching the sunset paint the bay in shades of gold and crimson. Any regrets? He asked, slipping his arm around my waist. About waiting 3 years to tell them the truth? About any of it. I considered the question seriously. The 3 years of subtle insults and careful exclusion had been painful, but they'd also taught me something valuable about the difference between respect and recognition. His family had eventually learned to respect my success, but they'd never truly recognized my worth as a person until they understood my financial value. No regrets, I said finally. Sometimes people need to be shocked into seeing clearly. And now we build something better. That Christmas, as we sat around our own dining table sharing stories and laughter with both families, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. The woman who had been called a gold digger was indeed involved with gold. She was making it, managing it, and multiplying it for the very people who had questioned her motives. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd accused me of marrying for money while I was the one with money. They'd suggested I was beneath their standards while I was exceeding their expectations. They'd worried I would take advantage of their son while I was taking care of their assets. But more than the financial vindication, I'd gained something more valuable. A husband who finally understood who he'd married, and a family who learned that worth isn't determined by pedigree, it's demonstrated by action. As Marcus raised his glass to toast new traditions and old values, I thought about all the assumptions that had been shattered that Christmas Eve night. Sometimes the most satisfying revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply letting the truth speak for itself. The champagne glasses clinked again, but this time they didn't stop.
The day my sister stole my daughter, I was lying in a hospital bed, still bleeding from the emergency C-section that had saved both our lives. My name is Ruby, and I'm about to tell you how my own family destroyed me, and how I spent 10 years planning my revenge. Ruby, we need to talk. My mother Alice swept into the recovery room like she owned the place, my father Troy shuffling behind her. My sister Layla sat in the corner chair, cradling the baby. My baby. The papers, I whispered, throat raw from the breathing tube. Layla needs to sign the surrogacy papers. Silence. The kind that makes your skin crawl. About that, Alice said, smoothing her perfect hair. We've been discussing the situation. What situation? I tried to sit up, pain shooting through my abdomen. She's my daughter, my egg, my embryo. Layla was just the surrogate, Layla finished, her voice barely audible. I know what I was supposed to be. Then sign the damn papers. Alice moved closer to my bed. Honey, you're not thinking clearly. You're single. You work 80-hour weeks. You travel constantly for that little startup of yours. My biotech company is not a little startup. And Layla is married. She has a stable home with Jace. She's been carrying this baby for 9 months, bonding with her, because I asked her to. The heart monitor started beeping faster. Because I trusted her. Layla finally looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Ruby, I can't. I can't give her up. She's mine now. The room spun. She's not yours. She's genetically mine. We have a contract. Contracts can be broken, Troy said quietly. It was the first time he'd spoken since entering the room. You're supporting this? I stared at my father in disbelief. You're actually supporting this? Alice sat on the edge of my bed, her voice taking on that syrupy tone she used when she wanted something. Ruby, be reasonable. A child needs her real mother. I am her real mother. Her real mother, Alice continued, is the woman who carried her, who felt her kick, who sang to her every night. Layla has been this baby's mother from the moment of conception. Because I couldn't carry her myself, my voice cracked. Because of the endometriosis, because of the scarring from the surgery. You know this. And we're so grateful you gave Layla this gift, Alice said. You can still be part of her life. You can be the rich aunt who spoils her, who takes her on trips. Get out. The words came out as a growl. Ruby? Get out, I screamed, and the machine started going crazy. All of you, get out. Nurses rushed in as my family filed out. Layla was the last to leave, still holding my daughter. She paused at the door. I'm sorry, she whispered, but I love her too much to let her go. The door closed behind them, and I was alone with the beeping machines and the crushing weight of betrayal. That was 10 years ago. 10 years of building my empire while they played happy family with my child. 10 years of missing birthdays, first steps, first words. 10 years of Christmas cards with photos of their perfect little family. I threw myself into work with the fury of a woman who had nothing left to lose. My biotech company, Helix Therapeutics, became one of the most successful gene therapy companies in the world. I made Fortune's 40 Under 40 list 3 times. I had patents worth hundreds of millions. But I never forgot. I never forgave. And I never stopped planning. This morning, I was reviewing quarterly reports in my corner office when my assistant knocked. Ms. Ruby, this came for you. No return address. The envelope was thick, expensive paper. Inside was a single sheet with a hospital letterhead and a few typed lines. Cadence Blake, age 10. Diagnosed with Huntington's-like disorder, genetic variant, rapid progression, seeking experimental treatment options. Time sensitive. Below that, in my mother's handwriting, she's dying, Ruby. Please. I set the paper down with steady hands. But inside, something was roaring. My daughter, because she was still my daughter, no matter what papers they'd signed or didn't sign, was dying. And I was the only person in the world who could save her. The gene therapy we'd been developing in secret for the past 3 years was specifically designed for this exact disorder. We were months away from FDA approval, but I could fast-track compassionate use. I could save her life. The question was, would I? I spent the next 3 days digging into everything about Cadence's condition. My head researcher, Brett, pulled the files on our experimental gene therapy, GT47 we called it. The only treatment in existence for this particular genetic nightmare. The protein folding is almost identical to what we've been targeting, Brett said, spreading the lab reports across my desk. But Ruby, this is still months from human trials. The FDA can approve compassionate use in extreme cases, I finished. How extreme are we talking? Brett's face went pale. Without treatment? 6 months? Maybe less? With our therapy? We're looking at potential full remission. 6 months. My daughter had 6 months to live, and I held the only key to saving her. That's when my assistant buzzed in. Ms. Ruby? There's a couple here to see you. They don't have an appointment, but they say it's about a sick child. I almost laughed. Send them in. Layla walked through my office door looking like she'd aged a decade. Her husband Jace followed, his usual cocky swagger replaced by something that looked like desperation. Neither of them recognized me at first. I'd changed my hair, lost weight, traded my old glasses for contacts. Thank you for seeing us, Layla said, her voice shaking. We're here about our daughter. She has this rare genetic condition, and we heard your company might have a treatment. Your daughter, I repeated, leaning back in my chair. Yes, Cadence. She's 10, and she's... Layla's voice broke. She's dying. Jace stepped forward, trying to take control. We've been to every specialist on the East Coast. They all say the same thing. Your experimental therapy is her only shot. And you are? Jace Blake. This is my wife, Layla. Look, we know this is unconventional, but we're willing to pay anything. We've mortgaged the house, liquidated our savings. How much? I asked. Excuse me? How much are you willing to pay for your daughter's life? Layla flinched like I'd slapped her. Whatever it takes. She's our everything. Your everything, I said slowly. Tell me about her. For the next 20 minutes, they painted a picture of my daughter. How she loved to read. How she was brilliant in math. How she wanted to be a scientist when she grew up. How the symptoms started 6 months ago. The tremors, the cognitive decline, the way she'd started forgetting simple words. She asked me yesterday if she was going to die, Layla whispered. What do you tell a 10-year-old who asks that? The truth, I said. Jay shot me a look. That's cold. Even for a CEO. Is it? Or is honesty just something your family struggles with? Before either of them could respond, my office door opened again. My parents walked in without being announced, looking older and more fragile than I remembered. Alice and Troy, I said, not bothering to stand. How nice of you to join us. My mother's eyes widened as recognition finally hit. Ruby? Hello, Mother. The silence in the room was deafening. Layla's face went white. Jace looked confused, glancing between us. You're Ruby Sherman, he said slowly. You're Layla's sister. Was, I corrected. Past tense. Troy stepped forward, his hands shaking. Ruby? We didn't know. We had no idea you were the CEO of the company that could save your granddaughter's life? I smiled, and it felt like ice. Surprise. Alice found her voice first, falling back on old patterns. Ruby, thank God. This is perfect. You can help Cadence, and we can finally... Finally what? Be a family again? I stood up, walking around my desk. After 10 years of silence? After you chose her over me? We didn't choose anyone, Troy said weakly. You chose to let Layla steal my daughter. You chose to support her lies. You chose to cut me out of my own child's life. I looked at each of them in turn. And now you want my help. Layla was crying openly now. Ruby, please. I know what we did was wrong, but Cadence is innocent in all this. She doesn't deserve to die because of our mistakes. Our mistakes? I laughed, and the sound was harsh in the quiet office. Your mistakes. I didn't make any mistakes except trusting my own family. Jay stepped protectively in front of Layla. Look, whatever happened between you people, this is about a sick kid. Are you really going to let a child die over some family drama? Some family drama, I repeated. Is that what we're calling it? Ruby, Alice said, her voice taking on that manipulative tone I remembered so well. You're successful now. You've proven your point. But family is family. Blood is thicker than water. I walked back to my desk and picked up Cadence's medical file. You know what's interesting about blood? It carries genetic information, DNA, the kind that proves who someone's real parents are. The room went dead quiet. I'll consider your request, I said finally. But first, I want to hear the whole story, from the beginning. Every detail of how you justified stealing my daughter. Ruby, Layla started. Every detail. I sat back down, folding my hands. You want my help? You're going to tell me exactly how you sleep at night. Sit down, I said, gesturing to the chairs across from my desk. All of you. They sat like scolded children. Alice kept glancing at the door like she wanted to run. Start talking. And don't you dare lie to me. I have resources now. I can verify everything you say. Layla wiped her eyes with a tissue. Ruby, it wasn't planned. When I agreed to be your surrogate, I thought I could handle it. I thought I could just carry her and give her back. But the first time I felt her move, Layla's voice cracked. It was like she was already mine. Every doctor's appointment, every ultrasound, every kick, I fell in love with her. So you decided to steal her. I didn't decide anything, Layla snapped, showing the first spark of her old self. I was terrified. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't imagine handing her over. Jace reached for his wife's hand. I told her she was being ridiculous at first. That a deal was a deal. What changed your mind? I asked him. The miscarriages, he said quietly. We'd been trying for years. 3 miscarriages in 2 years. When Layla got pregnant with your embryo, it was the first pregnancy that stuck. I started thinking, maybe this was meant to be. Meant to be, I repeated. How convenient. Alice leaned forward. Ruby, you have to understand. Layla was devastated by those losses. She was in therapy, on antidepressants. Don't. I held up a hand. Don't you dare try to make this about Layla's mental health. She knew exactly what she was doing. We all knew it was wrong, Troy said suddenly. His voice was barely above a whisper. But when we saw how happy she was, how healthy the pregnancy was going, you decided my happiness didn't matter. You were always so strong, Alice said. So independent. You didn't need us the way Layla did. I needed my daughter. You could have had other children, Alice continued. You're brilliant, successful. You could have found another way. I had endometriosis. I slammed my hand on the desk. That embryo was made from my last viable eggs. There was no other way. The room fell silent. Jace shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Tell me about the day she was born, I said. Tell me about the moment you decided to destroy my life. Layla was sobbing now. When they put her in my arms, I couldn't breathe. She was so perfect. And she looked at me like she knew me. Like I was her mother. You weren't her mother. You were her incubator. Ruby, please. Keep talking. What happened next? Troy cleared his throat. We talked about it as a family. The night before you were supposed to take her home. Without me? You were still in the ICU, Alice said defensively. The C-section complications. So you held a family meeting to decide my daughter's fate while I was unconscious. How thoughtful. We were trying to do what was best for everyone, Alice said. What was best for everyone except me. Jace spoke up. Look, I know this sounds bad, but we genuinely believed Cadence would be better off with us. Stable home, 2 parents, financial security. I had financial security. You had a startup that could have failed. We had steady jobs, a house in the suburbs, family nearby. You had my daughter. We gave her a good life, Layla said, her voice rising. She's happy. She's loved. She's dying, I said coldly. And now you need me. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Ruby, Alice said carefully, what do you want from us? The truth, all of it. How did you sleep at night? How did you explain to people why I was never around? What lies did you tell? We told people you were too busy with work, Troy said, that you'd chosen your career over family. And people believe that? You never came to family gatherings, Alice said. You never called, never visited. Because you made it clear I wasn't welcome. Because every time I tried to see her, you found excuses. You could have fought harder, Jace said. You could have taken us to court. I stared at him. I could have destroyed my sister's marriage and traumatized a child in a custody battle. Is that what you wanted? We wanted you to accept reality, Alice said. Cadence was ours. We were her family. And now? They all looked at each other, the weight of their situation finally sinking in. Now, we need you, Layla whispered. Yes, I said, leaning back in my chair. You do. The question is, what are you willing to do to get my help? Anything, Troy said immediately. Anything? Yes. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a digital recorder. Then we're going to have a very long conversation, and this time, I want it all on the record. Ruby, what are you— Insurance, I said, hitting record. Now, Layla, I want you to start from the beginning, and I want you to tell the truth about everything. I want to speak to Layla alone, I said, still holding the recorder. The rest of you, out. Ruby, we should all— Alice started. Out. Now. Jace stood up, his jaw tight. I'm not leaving my wife alone with you. Then your daughter dies. I set the recorder on the desk between us. Your choice. Alice grabbed Troy's arm. Come on, let them talk. I'll be right outside, Jace told Layla, shooting me a warning look before following my parents out. The door clicked shut. Layla and I stared at each other across 10 years of silence and betrayal. You look different, she said finally. Success will do that. Ruby, Don't. I hit record on the device. We're doing this my way. State your name for the record. This is insane. State your name. Layla's hands were shaking. Layla Blake. And what was your maiden name? You know what it was. For the record. Layla Sherman. Good. Now tell me about the surrogacy agreement you signed with your sister Ruby Sherman in 2014. Layla closed her eyes. I agreed to carry an embryo created from Ruby's egg and donor sperm. The agreement was that I would carry the baby to term and then surrender all parental rights. And did you honor that agreement? No? Why not? Because— Layla opened her eyes, and they were filled with tears. Because I fell in love with her. Because carrying her for 9 months made her feel like mine. So you stole her. I didn't steal. You took a child that wasn't legally yours and refused to give her back. What would you call that? Layla was quiet for a long moment. Theft, she whispered. Louder. I stole your daughter. And how did our parents react when you told them your plan? They supported me. How? They said Cadence would be better off with me. That I was the real mother because I carried her. Did they encourage you to break the surrogacy agreement? Layla nodded, then caught herself. Yes. They told me I didn't have to give her up if I didn't want to. And what about Ruby? What did they say about her? They said— Layla's voice cracked. They said you were too selfish to be a good mother, that you cared more about your career than about family. Did you believe that? I wanted to believe it. It made what I was doing feel less horrible. I leaned forward. But you knew it wasn't true, didn't you? Yes. You knew I wanted that baby more than anything in the world. Yes. You knew I'd spent years trying to get pregnant, that I'd had surgery, that I'd exhausted every other option. Yes. The word came out as a sob. And you took her anyway. Yes. Why? Layla broke down completely then, her whole body shaking. Because I was empty, Ruby. Because Jace and I had lost 3 babies, and I was dying inside. And when I felt her moving in my belly, it was the first time in years I felt whole. I know it was wrong. I know it was selfish. But I couldn't give up the only thing that made me feel like a real woman. So you destroyed me instead. I thought you'd get over it. I thought you'd move on, find someone, have other kids. With what eggs, Layla? With what uterus? That embryo was my only shot at biological motherhood, and you knew it. I know, and I've regretted it every single day for 10 years. Have you? Because you seemed pretty happy in all those Christmas photos you sent. Layla looked up sharply. You got those? Every year. Pictures of my daughter calling you mommy. Pictures of her first steps, first day of school, birthday parties I wasn't invited to. Ruby, I'm sorry. Are you? Or are you just sorry because now you need something from me? Both, Layla admitted. I'm sorry for what I did, and I'm terrified of losing her. Now you know how I felt. I can't lose her, Ruby. She's my whole world. She was my whole world too. But you didn't care about that. Layla wiped her nose with her sleeve. What do you want me to say? That I was a monster? That I ruined your life? Fine. I was, and I did. But please don't punish Cadence for my mistakes. Tell me about the lies you told her about me. What? What does Cadence know about her Aunt Ruby? Layla's face went pale. We told her you were too busy to visit, that you lived far away and worked all the time. Does she know I'm her biological mother? No. Does she know she was conceived through surrogacy? No. So she thinks you're her real mother. I am her real mother, Layla snapped, then caught herself. I mean, I raised her. I've been there for every scraped knee, every nightmare, every moment that should have been mine. Ruby, please, I'll do anything. I'll tell her the truth. I'll sign papers giving up custody. You'll what? Whatever you want. Just save her. I stopped the recording and leaned back in my chair. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Does this mean you'll help her? It means we're just getting started. I let them stew for 3 days. 3 days of no phone calls returned, no emails answered, no updates on Cadence's treatment. My assistant had strict instructions to tell them I was reviewing their case. On Thursday morning, Peyton knocked on my office door. My COO and oldest friend had been with me since the early days, back when we were running the company out of a garage. We need to talk, she said, closing the door behind her. About? About the fact that you're torturing a dying child's family instead of fast-tracking her treatment. I didn't look up from my computer. I'm conducting due diligence. Bullshit. Peyton sat down across from my desk. Ruby, I've known you for 15 years. I was there when your family screwed you over. I held your hair back while you puked from stress during those first few months after. Your point? My point is that this isn't you. The Ruby I know would move heaven and earth to save a sick kid, regardless of personal history. The Ruby you knew was naive enough to trust her own family. The Ruby I know has a heart. I finally looked up. Hearts are liabilities in business. This isn't business. This is a 10-year-old girl who's dying. This is justice. Peyton leaned forward. What's your endgame here? You string them along until the kid dies. Then what? You feel better? You sleep better at night knowing you got your revenge? I sleep fine. When's the last time you went on a date? When's the last time you took a vacation that wasn't work-related? When's the last time you did anything that wasn't about building this company or proving how successful you are? I stood up and walked to the window. I don't have time for this conversation. You don't have time for anything except work and whatever this is. Peyton gestured at the files on my desk, all related to Cadence's case. Ruby, they destroyed you once. Don't let them destroy who you are now. They didn't destroy me. They made me stronger. Did they? Or did they just make you harder? Before I could answer, my assistant buzzed in. Ms. Ruby, Jace Blake is here. He says it's urgent. Send him in. Jace burst through the door looking like he hadn't slept in days. We need to talk. Now. Peyton, give us a minute. Peyton stood up, but paused at the door. Think about what I said. She left, closing the door behind her. Jace started pacing in front of my desk. Cadence collapsed yesterday. She's in the hospital. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Because you've been playing games for 3 days while my daughter gets sicker. Your daughter? Yes, my daughter. I've been her father for 10 years. I've coached her soccer team, helped with homework, scared away boys at the playground. With my DNA. Jace stopped pacing. Look, I know what Layla did was wrong. I know we all screwed up. But if you want to punish someone, punish us. Don't punish her. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm considering your request for compassionate use of an experimental therapy. Considering? She's dying. Lots of children are dying. Should I give the treatment to all of them? You should give it to your own daughter. The words hung in the air between us. Jace realized what he'd said and went pale. My daughter, I repeated slowly. I didn't mean... No, you're right. She is my daughter. Biologically, genetically, legally, she's mine. The question is, why should I save the child that was stolen from me for the people who stole her? Because she's innocent. So was I. Jace sat down heavily in the chair. What do you want? Money? Public apology? What? I want my family to understand what they took from me. We understand. Do you? Do you understand that I missed her first word, her first step, her first day of school? Do you understand that she doesn't even know I exist? She knows you exist. We told her about her Aunt Ruby. Her aunt. I laughed bitterly. Not her mother. Not the woman who gave her life. Her aunt who's too busy to visit. We can fix that. We can tell her the truth. Can you? Can you really? Because that would mean admitting that your entire marriage is built on a lie. That your wife is a thief and you're an accessory. Jace's hands clenched into fists. Don't talk about my wife like that. Your wife stole my child. What would you call her? A woman who made a mistake. A mistake that lasted 10 years. Ruby, please. I'm begging you. Cadence asked about you yesterday. That stopped me cold. What? She asked why Aunt Ruby never visits. She wanted to know if you don't like her. What did you tell her? I told her you're very busy and very important, but that you love her very much. You lied to her again. I told her the truth. You do love her, don't you? I turned back to the window, watching the city below. I don't know her. But you want to. What I want doesn't matter. It never has. It matters now. You hold her life in your hands. Yes, I said quietly. I do. So what's it going to be? Are you going to save her, or are you going to let her die to prove a point? I turned around to face him. I'm going to call a family meeting. All of you. Tomorrow at noon. Ruby, tomorrow at noon. And Jace, bring your checkbook. We're going to discuss terms. They filed into my conference room at exactly noon, looking like they were attending their own funeral. Alice clutched her purse like a shield. Troy kept checking his watch. Jace had dark circles under his eyes, and Layla looked like she'd been crying for days. "Sit," I said, taking my place at the head of the table. "Where's Cadence?" I asked. "With my mother," Layla said quietly. "At the hospital?" "How is she?" "Worse. The tremors are constant now, and she's having trouble speaking." I opened the folder in front of me. "I've reviewed your request for compassionate use of GT-47. I'm prepared to approve it." The relief on their faces was immediate and overwhelming. "Thank you," Alice breathed. "Ruby, thank you so much." "I'm not finished." I pulled out a legal document. "There are conditions." Jace leaned forward. "What kind of conditions?" "First, full public acknowledgement of the truth. Layla will hold a press conference admitting that she stole my biological daughter through surrogacy fraud. Alice and Troy will confirm their role in supporting this theft." "Absolutely not," Alice said immediately. "Our reputation—" "Your reputation?" I laughed. "Your granddaughter is dying, and you're worried about your reputation?" "Ruby, be reasonable," Troy said. "There has to be another way." "There is. You can watch Cadence die." Layla grabbed Jace's hand. "I'll do it. I'll tell everyone the truth." "Layla, no," Alice said sharply. "Think about what this will do to our family, to the church, to hell with the church," Layla snapped. "My daughter is dying." "She's not your daughter," I said calmly. "Which brings me to condition number 2. You will surrender all legal custody and parental rights to me." The room went dead silent. "Ruby," Jace said carefully, "you can't be serious." "I'm completely serious. Cadence is my biological daughter. I want full legal custody." "You can't just take her away from the only family she's ever known," Alice protested. "The way you took her away from me? That's different." "How? How is it different?" Layla was shaking. "Ruby, please. I know I don't deserve to be her mother, but she needs stability. She needs to not die. Everything else is negotiable." "What about visitation?" Jace asked. "We've raised her for 10 years. You've had 10 years of stolen time. Now it's my turn." "You're going to traumatize her," Alice said, "ripping her away from her home, her school, her friends." "The way you traumatized me?" Troy spoke up for the first time. "Ruby, what about what's best for Cadence? She doesn't know you. You're a stranger to her. Whose fault is that?" "Ours," Layla said quietly. "It's our fault. But punishing us by taking her away won't fix anything. It's not punishment. It's justice. It's revenge," Jace said. "And you're using a sick child to get it." I stood up and walked to the window. Condition 3. A trust fund of $10 million in Cadence's name, with me as the sole trustee. $10 million? Troy choked. "We don't have that kind of money. Sell the house. Liquidate your retirement accounts. Take out loans. I don't care how you get it." "Ruby, this is insane," Alice said. "You're asking us to destroy our lives. The way you destroyed mine." "We didn't destroy your life. Look at you. You're successful, wealthy, powerful. I'm alone." The words came out louder than I intended. "I'm completely alone because the people who were supposed to love me chose to betray me instead." The room fell quiet. Layla was crying again. "I accept," she whispered. "Layla," Jay started. "I accept all of it. The press conference, the custody, the money, all of it." "We can't afford $10 million, Troy said. "Then we'll figure it out," Layla said. "We'll sell everything, borrow against the business, whatever it takes." "You're talking about financial ruin," Alice said. "And you're talking about letting your granddaughter die," Layla screamed. "How can you even hesitate?" Alice's face crumpled. "Of course we'll do it. We'll find a way." I turned back to face them. "There's one more thing. I want to meet her. Before the treatment starts." "Ruby," Layla started. "I want to meet my daughter. Alone. She's very sick, Jace said. And she doesn't know who you really are. It might confuse her. Then you'll have to figure out how to explain it, won't you? Layla wiped her eyes. When? Today. This afternoon. Ruby? She's in the hospital. I know where she is. I've been monitoring her condition. I sat back down. 2:00. Room 314. You'll introduce me as her Aunt Ruby, and then you'll leave us alone. For how long? As long as I want. They looked at each other, having some silent family conversation. Okay, Layla said finally. But Ruby, please be gentle with her. She's scared, and she's sick, and she's just a little girl. She's my little girl, I said, and it's time I finally met her. Room 314 was smaller than I expected. Cadence lay in the hospital bed, looking impossibly tiny against the white sheets. Her dark hair, my hair, was spread across the pillow, and her hands trembled slightly even in sleep. She had my eyes. Cadence, sweetheart, Layla said softly, touching her shoulder. Someone's here to see you. Cadence opened her eyes and looked at me with curiosity. Are you a doctor? No, honey, Layla said, her voice tight. This is your Aunt Ruby. Remember I told you about her? The one who's too busy to visit? Cadence's voice was slurred, the disease already affecting her speech. I wasn't too busy, I said, stepping closer to the bed. I was just far away. Mom says you're very important. Your mom is right about some things. Layla squeezed Cadence's hand. I'm going to get some coffee. You two can talk. Don't go far, Cadence said, panic flickering in her eyes. I'll be right down the hall, baby. I promise. After Layla left, Cadence and I stared at each other. She looked so much like the baby photos I'd kept hidden in my desk drawer. The ones from the hospital before they took her away. Are you really my aunt? She asked. I'm really your aunt. Why don't you ever visit? Don't you like me? The question hit me like a punch to the chest. I like you very much. It's complicated. Adults always say that when they don't want to tell the truth. Smart kid. You're right. The truth is, your mom and I had a fight a long time ago, and we stopped talking to each other. What did you fight about? You. Cadence's eyes widened. Me? But I was just a baby. You were the most important baby in the world. Am I going to die? The question came out of nowhere, direct and devastating. What makes you ask that? Everyone keeps whispering and crying, and I feel really sick all the time now. My hands shake, and I can't remember words sometimes. I sat down in the chair next to her bed. You're very sick, but there might be a way to make you better. Really? Really. But it's going to be hard, and there are going to be a lot of changes. What kind of changes? I looked at this little girl, my daughter, and felt something crack inside my chest. Cadence, what if I told you that sometimes adults make mistakes? Big mistakes that hurt people? Like when I broke Mom's vase and lied about it. Bigger than that. What if I told you that the fight your mom and I had was because she took something that belonged to me? Cadence frowned, trying to process this. What did she take? The most precious thing in the world. Was it expensive? It was priceless. Did she give it back? No, she kept it for 10 years. Cadence was quiet for a moment, her young mind working. Are you going to make her give it back now? Yes. Is that why you're here? To take it back? I reached out and touched her hand. Her skin was so soft, so warm. What if I told you that what she took was you? Cadence stared at me, confusion and fear flickering across her face. I don't understand. Your mom carried you in her belly, but you came from me, from my body. You're my daughter, Cadence. That's not true. Her voice was small and scared. Mom is my mom. Dad is my dad. They raised you, and they love you. But biologically, genetically, you're mine. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. I want my mom. Cadence, I want my mom. She tried to sit up, but the effort made her shake worse. Mom! Mom! Layla came running back into the room. What's wrong? What happened? She told me I'm not your daughter, Cadence sobbed. She said I belong to her. Layla shot me a look of pure fury. Ruby, what did you do? I told her the truth. She's 10 years old and dying. This isn't the time. When is the time, Layla? When she's 18? When she's 30? When exactly were you planning to tell her that her entire life is a lie? It's not a lie, Cadence cried. You're lying. Mom, tell her she's lying. Layla sat on the edge of the bed and pulled Cadence into her arms. Sweetheart, listen to me. Ruby is telling the truth about the biology. You did grow from her egg. But that doesn't change anything about how much I love you or how much you mean to me. But you're not my real mom. I'm the mom who raised you. I'm the mom who loves you more than anything in the world. That makes me real. Cadence looked between us, her young face twisted with confusion and pain. Why didn't you tell me? Because we were scared, Layla admitted. We were scared you'd be confused or hurt. I am hurt and confused. I know, baby. I know. Cadence looked at me with eyes that were so much like my own. If you're my real mom, why did you give me away? I didn't give you away. She took you. Ruby, stop, Layla warned. No, she deserves to know. Cadence, I wanted you more than anything in the world. I asked your mom, Layla, to help me have you because I couldn't carry you myself. But when you were born, she decided she wanted to keep you instead. So you just let her? The question broke my heart. I tried to get you back, but everyone said you were better off with her. Were they right? I looked at this sick, scared little girl who should have been mine from the beginning. I don't know, but I'm here now. Are you going to take me away from Mom and Dad? Yes. I don't want to go with you. I don't even know you. You will. Cadence buried her face in Layla's shoulder. I want to stay with my real family. I am your real family, I said quietly. And it's time you came home. The press conference was a bloodbath. Layla sat at the podium, her hands shaking as she read from the prepared statement. 10 years ago, I agreed to be a surrogate for my sister Ruby. When the baby was born, I refused to honor our agreement and kept the child as my own. The reporters erupted with questions. Camera flashes went off like lightning. Alice sat in the front row, her face buried in her hands. I stole my sister's daughter, Layla continued, her voice breaking. With the support of my parents, I committed surrogacy fraud and denied Ruby her parental rights. Mrs. Blake, why are you admitting this now? A reporter shouted. Layla looked directly into the camera. Because my daughter, Ruby's biological daughter, is dying, and Ruby is the only person who can save her. The room exploded again. I watched from the back, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction as my family's lies crumbled on live television. The custody hearing was swift. With Layla's public confession and the DNA evidence, the judge had no choice but to grant me full legal custody of Cadence. The trust fund was established. The treatment began immediately. GT47 worked like magic. Within weeks, Cadence's tremors stopped. Her speech cleared. The cognitive decline reversed. She was going to live, but living in my penthouse apartment, she was miserable. I want to go home, she said for the 100th time, picking at her dinner. This is your home now. This isn't home. Home is with Mom and Dad. Layla and Jace aren't your parents anymore. I am. You're not my mom, she screamed, throwing her fork across the room. You're just the lady who gave me away. I hired the best therapists money could buy. Child psychologists, family counselors. Nothing helped. Cadence cried herself to sleep every night, begging to see Layla. She's traumatized, Dr. Martinez explained during one of our sessions. You've ripped her away from the only family she's ever known. She doesn't understand why. She'll adjust. Ruby, she's not adjusting. She's getting worse. The depression, the anxiety attacks, she just needs time. She needs her family. I am her family. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. I was a stranger to her. A stranger who destroyed her world to get revenge on mine. The breaking point came on a Tuesday night. I found Cadence in her room, holding a photo of Layla and Jace. "I miss them," she whispered. "They lied to you your whole life. They loved me my whole life." I sat down on her bed. "I love you too." "No, you don't. You love the idea of me. You love winning. But you don't know me." The words hit harder than any physical blow. "That's not true." "What's my favorite color?" I opened my mouth, then closed it. "What's my favorite food? What am I afraid of? What makes me laugh?" Tears streamed down her face. "You don't know anything about me because you never tried to know me. You just wanted to own me." "Cadence, I hate you," she said quietly. "I hate you for taking me away from my real family. I hate you for making Mom cry on TV. I hate you for ruining everything." I left her room and called Peyton. "She's right," I said when Peyton arrived. "About everything. Ruby, I destroyed them to get her back, but I never thought about what that would do to her. She doesn't want to be saved by me. She wants to be saved for them. So what are you going to do?" I looked at the custody papers on my desk. All legal, all binding, all meaningless if they were destroying the child I'd fought so hard to save. "I'm going to do something I should have done 10 years ago." "What's that?" "Put Cadence first." The next morning I drove Cadence to Layla's house. She hadn't lived there since losing custody, but she was staying with her mother-in-law nearby. "Why are we here?" Cadence asked. "Because you're right. I don't know you. And the people who do know you, who love you, who've been your family for 10 years, they're not your enemies. They're mine." I knocked on the door. Layla answered, her face swollen from crying. "Ruby? What?" "I'm bringing her home." "What?" "Not permanently, but for visits. Supervised at first, then overnight, then weekends. Whatever the court approves." Layla's knees buckled. "Are you serious?" "I'm keeping legal custody. The trust fund stays. But Cadence needs her family. Her real family. The people who raised her." Cadence ran past me into Layla's arms. "Mom, baby girl," Layla sobbed, holding her tight. "I missed you so much." I watched them together and felt something I hadn't felt in 10 years. Peace. "Ruby," Layla said, looking at me over Cadence's head. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We're going to have to figure out how to co-parent, how to rebuild trust, how to be a family again. All of us." I looked at Cadence, who was watching me with cautious hope. "All of us," I said. "It's going to be messy and complicated, and probably impossible. But we'll try. We'll try. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's refusing to let them destroy you. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, it's finding a way to build something better from the wreckage they left behind." My daughter was alive. My family was broken but healing. And for the first time in 10 years, that felt like enough.
I should have known something was wrong when I heard my mother laughing. My name is Lucille, and I've never heard my mother laugh with genuine joy, not once in 34 years. Her laughter was always calculated, a weapon disguised as warmth. But this laugh, echoing from the dining room of what used to be my childhood home, sounded different, triumphant. I'd come by to pick up some of Dad's old books. He'd been gone 3 months now, and I was finally ready to sort through his things. The house still smelled like his pipe tobacco and Old Spice, which made my chest tight every time I walked through the door. "Lucille won't suspect a thing." My mother's voice drifted through the hallway. "She's been so scattered since the funeral. Barely functioning, really." I froze at the kitchen doorway, my hand still on the light switch. "You're sure she signed the papers?" That was Elliot's voice, my soon-to-be ex-husband, who wasn't supposed to be anywhere near this house. "Of course she signed them. I told you, she trusts me completely, always has." Mom's voice carried that smug satisfaction I remembered from childhood, when she'd successfully manipulated Dad into buying her something expensive. I pressed myself against the wall, heart hammering. Through the crack in the door, I could see them sitting at Dad's mahogany dining table, the one where we used to have family dinners before everything went to hell. Elliot was leaning back in Dad's chair like he owned the place, a stack of papers spread in front of him. My mother sat across from him, her perfectly manicured fingers wrapped around a champagne flute. My champagne flute. The Waterford crystal set Dad gave me for my wedding. "The joint accounts are the key," Elliot said, shuffling through what looked like bank statements. "Once we transfer everything out, she'll be left with nothing but the legal fees." "And the house?" Mum asked. "Already in motion. Your name's on the deed as co-owner, remember? We can force the sale within the month." My legs went weak. The house Dad left me, the only thing I had left of him, and somehow Mum's name was on it? "You're brilliant, Clara," Elliot said, raising his glass. "She never saw this coming." "To my daughter's naivety," Mum replied, clinking her glass against his, "and to her very generous inheritance." They both laughed, and the sound made my stomach turn. I watched them toast to my destruction with my own crystal, in my father's house, using papers I apparently signed without understanding what they meant. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow, not just Elliot, who I was already divorcing, but my own mother. "She actually believed you wanted to help her through the divorce," Elliot continued, "trusted you to handle the paperwork while she grieved. Lucille always was too sentimental for her own good, just like her father." Mum's voice turned bitter. "Always thinking the best of people, never seeing what's right in front of her face. Well, her sentimentality is about to cost her everything." "Good. Maybe it'll teach her that trust is a luxury she can't afford." I backed away from the door, my mind reeling. Every document Mum had brought me to sign over the past month, just formalities, darling, to protect your interests during the divorce, had apparently been anything but protective. My phone buzzed, a text from my sister Audrey. "Where are you? Mom said you were coming by today." I stared at the message, wondering if Audrey knew, wondering who else was in on this. As I turned to leave, something crinkled under my foot. An envelope, cream-coloured and expensive, with my name written in Dad's careful handwriting. It must have fallen from one of his books. I picked it up with shaking hands and tore it open. "My dearest Lucille," it began, "if you're reading this, then something has gone very wrong, and your mother has likely shown her true colours. I've watched her manipulate and scheme for 35 years, and I fear she sees your inheritance as her final prize. Remember what I told you about the emergency fund, the one only you and Will know about. When the glass breaks, my darling girl, you'll know what to do. Trust no one but yourself. All my love, Dad." I read it twice, my hands trembling. The emergency fund. I'd almost forgotten about it in my grief. From the dining room came another burst of laughter, followed by Elliot's voice. "She'll never recover from this, financially or emotionally." "That's the point," Mum replied coldly. I folded the letter carefully and slipped it into my pocket. My shock was crystallizing into something harder, colder. They thought I was broken, thought I was too grief-stricken and trusting to fight back. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I drove straight to the cemetery. Dad's grave was still covered with wilted flowers from the funeral, and I sat cross-legged on the damp grass like I used to do as a kid when I needed to think. "You saw this coming, didn't you?" I whispered to the headstone. "That's why you made me memorize Will's number. That's why you insisted on the emergency fund." The memory hit me like a slap. 3 years ago, Dad had pulled me aside during Christmas dinner, "Lucille, I need you to listen carefully," he'd said, leading me to his study. "Your mother thinks I don't notice things, but I do. I see how she looks at the bank statements, how she asks about the will." "Dad, what are you talking about?" He'd opened his safe and pulled out a thick folder. "I'm talking about protecting you from your own family. Clara's always been jealous of what you have, your education, your marriage, your independence. When I'm gone, she'll see your inheritance as her chance to finally get what she thinks she deserves. Mum wouldn't... Your mother would sell you for spare parts if the price was right." His voice had been gentle but firm. "I've set up something she can't touch. A trust that only activates under specific circumstances. Will Holmes knows about it. Remember his name." I'd thought he was being paranoid. Now I realised he'd been preparing for war. My phone rang. "Audrey." "Where did you disappear to?" she asked. "Mum's freaking out. She said you were supposed to meet her an hour ago." "I'm at Dad's grave." "Oh, Luce, you shouldn't be there alone. Want me to come?" "Actually, yes, but meet me at the coffee shop on 5th Street instead." 20 minutes later, Audrey slid into the booth across from me, her face creased with worry. At 29, she still looked like the little sister who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. "You look terrible," she said. "Have you been sleeping?" "Audrey, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." She straightened. "Okay. Has Mum said anything to you about my divorce? About helping Elliot with anything?" Audrey's face went pale. "Why would you ask that?" "Just answer me." She fidgeted with her coffee cup. "She mentioned that Elliot was having trouble with his lawyer. Said maybe she could help smooth things over, make the divorce less messy for everyone." "What kind of help?" "I don't know. She was vague about it." Audrey looked up at me. "Luce, what's going on?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the bank app. "Look at my account balance." Her eyes widened. "There's only $300 left." "But Dad's life insurance alone should have been $200,000. Plus my savings, plus the joint accounts Elliot and I shared." I put the phone away. "It's all gone." "That's impossible. You just deposited the insurance check last month." "And somehow, Mum's name got added to the account. As a co-owner." Audrey's coffee cup clattered against the saucer. "No, she wouldn't. I saw her tonight, Audrey. At the house, with Elliot. They were celebrating." "Celebrating what?" "My financial ruin. They were drinking champagne and talking about how naive I am, how easy it was to get me to sign papers I didn't understand." Audrey's face crumpled. "Oh God, the papers she brought you last week. She said they were just to protect your assets during the divorce." "You knew about those?" "She asked me to witness your signature on a few of them. Said it was standard procedure." Tears started rolling down her cheeks. "Luce, I'm so sorry. I thought she was helping you." "What exactly did you witness me sign?" "Bank documents. Something about transferring accounts to prevent Elliot from accessing them during the divorce proceedings." She covered her face with her hands. "She said it was temporary, to protect you." I felt the last piece of the puzzle click into place. "She used you to make it legal. I helped her steal from you." Audrey's voice was barely a whisper. "You didn't know." I should have asked more questions. Should have read the documents instead of just trusting her. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Hey, look at me. This isn't your fault." "Then whose fault is it?" "Mum's, and Elliot's, and maybe mine for being stupid enough to trust them." Audrey wiped her eyes. "What are you going to do?" I pulled out Dad's letter and showed it to her. She read it twice, her expression shifting from confusion to anger. "The emergency fund," she said. "Dad mentioned it once, said he'd set something aside that Mum couldn't touch. Will Holmes, Dad's estate lawyer. I need to call him." "Tonight?" Right now. I stood up. Audrey, I need to know, are you with me or with her? She didn't hesitate. I'm with you, always, even if it means going against Mom? Especially then. Her voice was stronger now. She's gone too far this time. I dialed Will's number from memory, just like Dad had made me practice. Will, Holmes. Mr. Holmes, this is Lucille. I think it's time to break the glass. Will's office smelled like leather and old books, exactly like Dad's study. He was waiting for me at 7 a.m. sharp, a pot of coffee already brewing. Your father said you'd call eventually, he said, pouring me a cup. Though I hoped you wouldn't have to. How bad is it? Will opened a thick file folder. Worse than you think, but not as bad as they believe. He spread out bank statements across his desk. They've been busy, very busy. The numbers made my stomach drop. Every account I thought I had access to showed a balance of 0 or close to it. The joint accounts with Elliot were cleaned out first, Will continued. Then your personal savings. Your mother's been systematically transferring funds to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. That's illegal, right? Extremely. But they were careful. Used your power of attorney designation to make it look legitimate. He pulled out another document. This is what you signed last week. I stared at the paper. My signature was right there, but the text above it wasn't what Mum had told me it was. I thought this was to protect my assets from Elliot. It was to give your mother complete control over them. She can move money, sell property, even take out loans in your name. Jesus Christ! There's more. Will's expression darkened. They've already started proceedings to sell your father's house. Your mother filed paperwork claiming financial hardship and requesting an emergency sale. She can do that? Her name's on the deed. Has been for 6 months. I set down my coffee cup before I could throw it. Dad would never have put her name on that house. He didn't. But you did. Last October, when you signed what you thought were insurance papers after his heart attack, the room started spinning. She's been planning this since before he died. It appears so. Will leaned forward. Lucille, I need you to understand something. Your mother and Elliot aren't just stealing from you. They're destroying your entire financial identity. By the time they're done, you'll owe more than you could ever pay back. How is that possible? Credit cards in your name, loans against the house. They're leveraging everything you own and then some. I stood up and started pacing. So I'm screwed. They win. Not necessarily. Will opened his safe and pulled out a sealed envelope. Your father anticipated this exact scenario. He handed me the envelope. Inside was a single key and a bank card. Emergency trust fund, Will explained. Your father set it up 5 years ago, completely separate from everything else. Your mother doesn't know it exists. How much? $500,000, plus the proceeds from some investments he made in your name. I stared at the card. This is real? Very real, but there are conditions. The trust only activates if you can prove financial fraud by a family member, and once you access it, there's no going back. What do you mean? Your father included a clause. If you use this money to fight back, the trust will also fund a complete legal offensive against whoever betrayed you. Criminal charges, civil suits, the works. Will's eyes were serious. He called it the nuclear option. And if I don't use it? Then in 30 days, when you can't make the payments on all the debt they've created in your name, you'll lose everything anyway, including your freedom potentially. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend, Raylyn. Girl, where are you? Your mum called me looking for you. Said you missed some important meeting. I showed the text to Will. She's looking for me. Probably wondering why you haven't signed the final documents yet. What final documents? The ones that would transfer the last of your assets to them. I'm guessing she planned to have you sign them today. I called Raylan back. Luce! Your mum sounded frantic. What's going on? Can you meet me? I need to tell you something, and I need you to not freak out. You're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. Meet me at your place in an hour. I hung up and looked at Will. If I do this, if I activate the trust, what happens next? We hire the best investigators money can buy. We document every fraudulent transaction. We freeze their assets before they can move them offshore. And then we destroy them in court. All of them, including my mother, especially your mother. She's the mastermind here. I picked up the bank card. My father really planned for this? He loved you more than anything in the world, but he also knew your mother better than anyone. Will's voice softened. He said to tell you that sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones we have to fight hardest. And Audrey, my sister, if she's innocent, she'll be protected. If she's not, Will shrugged. The investigation will determine that. I slipped the card into my wallet. Do it. Activate everything. Are you sure? Once we start this, there's no mercy. No family reconciliation. No going back. They didn't show me any mercy when they were stealing everything Dad left me. Will smiled for the first time since I'd arrived. Your father would be proud. Let's hope so. I stood up, because I'm about to declare war on my own family. Raylan's apartment was my safe haven, the one place where I could think clearly. She took one look at my face and poured 2 glasses of wine without asking. Okay, spill, and don't leave anything out. I told her everything. The overheard conversation, the empty bank accounts, Will's revelations about the offshore transfers. By the time I finished, Raylan was pacing her living room like a caged tiger. That bitch, she said, your own mother. I never liked Clara, but this is next level evil. It gets worse. I pulled out my phone and showed her the latest text from Mum. Darling, we need to finalise those estate documents today. Meet me at the house at 2 p.m. Don't be late. She's still trying to get you to sign more papers. According to Will, these would be the final ones, the ones that transfer everything left in my name directly to her. Raylan stopped pacing. You're not going. Actually, I am. Are you insane? I'm going to play along. Let her think she's winning while Will's investigator gathers evidence. What investigator? Nick something. Will hired him this morning. He's already tracking the offshore accounts. Raylan sat down hard on her couch. This is really happening. You're going to war with your family. They went to war with me first. I'm just finally fighting back. My phone rang. Audrey. Luce, where are you? Mum's been calling everyone looking for you. I'm with Raylan. Why? She wants to have a family meeting. Says there are some urgent papers you need to sign regarding Dad's estate. Did she say what kind of papers? Something about tax documents. She seemed really stressed about it. I put the phone on speaker so Raylan could hear. Audrey, I need you to do something for me. Can you get to Mum's house before I do? I'm already here. Why? I want you to listen to everything she says. Every conversation, every phone call. Can you do that? You're freaking me out, Luce. Good. You should be freaked out. Just trust me, okay? Okay, but... The line went quiet. Then I heard Audrey's muffled voice. Oh, hi, Mom. Yes, she's coming. Then Mom's voice clear as day. Good. Elliot's already here. We can get this finished today. Elliot's there? I whispered. He's been here all morning, Audrey whispered back. They've been in Dad's study with a bunch of papers spread out on his desk. What kind of papers? I don't know. They shut the door when I tried to look. Raylan grabbed my arm. Don't go. This is obviously a trap. Audrey, I said into the phone, I need you to get out of there. Right now. What? Why? Because I think you're in danger. They're not just stealing from me. They're setting me up for something bigger. You're scaring me. I'll explain everything later. Just make an excuse and leave. Go to Raylan's apartment. But Mum will be furious if I... Audrey, listen to me. Our mother is not who we thought she was. She's been planning this for months, maybe years. You need to get out of that house now. I heard footsteps, then Audrey's voice became clearer. I'm going to my car. But Luce, what if you're wrong? What if this is all just a misunderstanding? Then I'll apologise and we'll laugh about it later. But if I'm right and you stay there, you could become an accessory to fraud. Jesus! Are you in your car? Yes. Good. Drive to Raylan's. Don't stop. Don't call Mum back. Just come here. I hung up and looked at Raylan. I need to call Will. Will Holmes. It's Lucille. They're all at the house right now. Mum, Elliot, and they had Audrey there too. That's not good. If they're rushing the timeline, it means they're getting nervous about something. Or they know I'm onto them. Either way, we need to move faster. I'm calling Nick now. We need surveillance on that house immediately. What about the meeting? Should I still go? Absolutely not. Let them wonder where you are. Meanwhile, Nick can document whatever they're doing. 20 minutes later, Audrey burst through Raylan's door, her face white as paper. They're planning something terrible, she said, collapsing into a chair. I heard them talking after you called. What did they say? Elliot was angry that you didn't show up. He said they needed to move to Plan B. What's Plan B? I don't know, but Mom said something about having you declared mentally incompetent. She said your grief over Dad has made you unstable, and she has documentation to prove it. Raylan's wine glass shattered against the floor. They're going to have you committed? That's not all, Audrey continued. Elliot mentioned something about a psychiatric evaluation he'd already arranged. Said the doctor was a friend of his who would confirm whatever they needed. My phone started ringing. Mum's number. Don't answer it, Raylan said. I have to. If I don't, they'll know something's wrong. I picked up. Hi, Mum. Lucille, where are you? We've been waiting for over an hour. I'm not feeling well. Can we reschedule? Absolutely not. These documents have to be filed today or we'll lose everything to taxes. Get here now. I said, I'm not feeling well. You're never feeling well anymore. That's exactly why we need to discuss your situation. The threat was clear. I looked at Audrey and Raylan, both staring at me with wide eyes. My situation? Your mental health, darling. Elliot and I are very concerned. We think you need professional help. I'm hanging up now. If you hang up on me, I'll have no choice but to call for a wellness check. The police will bring you here themselves. The line went dead. They're coming for me, I said. Pack a bag, Raylan said, already moving toward her bedroom. You're staying here tonight. They can't actually have me committed, can they? I asked Audrey. Elliot knows people, judges, doctors, court officials. Audrey's hands were shaking. He bragged about it during the divorce proceedings, remember? Said he could make your life hell if you didn't cooperate. My phone rang again. Will. Lucille, we have a problem. Elliot just filed an emergency petition claiming you're a danger to yourself. He's requesting immediate psychiatric evaluation and temporary guardianship. Can he do that? With the right judge and the right doctor, yes. Especially if your mother corroborates his claims about your mental state. This is insane. It's also brilliant. If they get guardianship, they control everything. Your assets, your medical decisions, your freedom. Raylan came back with a duffel bag. We're leaving, now. Where can we go? Audrey asked. I know a place, Will said through the phone. My cabin upstate. It's off the grid, and they won't think to look there. What about the investigation? Nick's already at your mother's house. He's documenting everything, the papers they're preparing, their conversations, all of it. A car door slammed outside. Raylan peered through the blinds. 2 police cars just pulled up. Shit, I grabbed the duffel bag. Is there a back exit? Fire escape, but loose. If you run, it will look like you really are having a breakdown. And if I stay, they'll drag me to some psychiatric facility where Elliot's friend will declare me incompetent. Go, Audrey said. I'll handle this. What are you going to tell them? That you were here earlier, but left. That you seemed upset about the divorce, but not dangerous. Heavy knocking echoed through the apartment. Police? We're here for a wellness check on Lucille Pierce. Go, Raylan whispered, pushing me toward the bedroom. I'll stall them. I climbed out onto the fire escape as Raylan opened the front door. Officers, how can I help you? We're looking for Lucille Pierce. Her family is concerned about her mental state. She was here earlier, but she left about an hour ago. Do you know where she went? She mentioned needing some time alone, said something about visiting her father's grave. I made it to the alley behind the building and called Will. I'm out. Where's this cabin? I'm sending you the address now. Take back roads, stay off the highways, and Lucille, turn off your phone after you get the address. They can track it. 20 minutes later, I was driving through the mountains, my phone powered down in the glove compartment. The cabin was exactly what I needed, isolated, quiet, and completely off the grid. Will arrived an hour after I did, carrying a box of files and a laptop. Nick got everything, he said, setting up on the kitchen table. Audio recordings, photographs of documents, even video of Elliot and your mother celebrating. Celebrating what? Your impending commitment. They were toasting with champagne again, talking about how easy it would be to liquidate your assets once they had guardianship. He opened the laptop and played an audio file. Elliot's voice filled the room. The beauty of this plan is that even if she figures out what we did with the money, she'll be locked up in a psychiatric facility. No one believes crazy people. Then Mum's voice. And once we have guardianship, we can sell everything. The house, the remaining investments, even her car. She'll never see a penny of her father's money. What about Audrey? Audrey will do what she's told, or she'll get cut out too. I've controlled that girl her whole life. I sat down hard in one of the kitchen chairs. She really hates me. This goes beyond hate, Will said. This is pure greed. But we have them now. Nick documented everything. The fraudulent transfers, the forged documents, even the kickback Elliot paid to the psychiatrist. There's a kickback? $50,000 for a diagnosis of severe depression with psychotic features. Jesus, it gets worse. They've already scheduled your commitment hearing for tomorrow morning. Emergency session closed to the public. Can they do that without me there? If they convince the judge you're too unstable to appear, yes. My phone, which I'd turned back on to get Will's updates, started buzzing with texts, all from Mum. Darling, the police said you ran away. This is exactly the kind of behaviour that proves you need help. Elliot is very worried about you. We all are. Please, come home. We can work through this together. If you don't respond, I'll have to assume you're having a complete breakdown. I showed the text to Will. She's building a paper trail, he said. Every text, every missed call, every erratic behaviour gets added to Elliot's petition. So, what do? We strike first. Tomorrow morning, before their hearing, we file criminal charges. Fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, the works. Will that stop the commitment? It'll definitely complicate things. Hard to claim someone's crazy when they're the victim of an elaborate financial crime. And if it doesn't work? Will's expression was grim. Then you'll be fighting this battle from inside a psychiatric facility, and they'll have control of everything. No pressure, I said. None at all, he replied. Just your freedom, your fortune, and your future. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. The storm was coming. At 5 a.m., Will's phone started ringing. Nick's name flashed on the screen. They're moving, Nick said without preamble. Elliot and your mother left the house 20 minutes ago with suitcases and a laptop bag. Where are they going? Airport, I'm following them now. Will put the phone on speaker. Are they running? Looks like it. They've got tickets to Grand Cayman. Flight leaves at 8 a.m. I grabbed the phone. They're going to the offshore accounts. That's what I'm thinking. Once they're in the Caymans, they can access the money and disappear. Can we stop them? Working on it. I've already called the FBI Financial Crimes Unit. They're sending agents to the airport now. Will was already pulling on his jacket. We need to get to the courthouse. If they're running, it means they know we're onto them. What about the commitment hearing? Still scheduled for 9 a.m. Elliot's lawyer will probably show up and claim you're so unstable you've driven your own family to flee the country. We drove back to town in silence, the early morning fog making everything look ghostly. My phone had 17 missed calls from Audrey. I called her back. Luce, thank God. Where are you? Safe. What's wrong? Mum's gone. She left a note saying she had to go out of town for a few days, but all her clothes are missing. Her jewellery, her passport, everything. What about Elliot? Gone too. His apartment is cleaned out. Audrey, listen to me carefully. Pack a bag and meet us at the courthouse. Bring any documents you can find that have Mum's or Elliot's signatures on them. Why? Because they're running and we need to stop them before they disappear with everything. Running where? I'll explain when I see you. Just get to the courthouse as fast as you can. Will's phone rang again. Nick. They're in custody, he said. FBI grabbed them at security. Elliot tried to run, but your mother just sat down and started crying. Did they have the money? Laptop had account information for 12 different offshore banks. Looks like they moved over $2 million total. $2 million? But I only had. They've been stealing from other people too. Your mother had access to several elderly clients' accounts through her volunteer work at the senior centre. The courthouse was buzzing with activity when we arrived. Reporters were already gathering outside. Someone had leaked the story. How did the press find out? I asked Will. Elliot's commitment petition is public record. When the FBI arrested them at the airport, someone connected the dots. Audrey was waiting for us on the courthouse steps, clutching a manila folder. I found these in Mum's desk, she said, handing me the folder. Bank statements, forged signatures, even a list of other people she was stealing from. I flipped through the documents. Names I recognised, elderly neighbours, family friends, people who trusted Mum to help with their finances. She's been running a scam for years, Audrey said. I found records going back to when Dad first got sick. She was stealing from people while he was dying. Jesus! There's more. Audrey pulled out a letter. She wrote this to Elliot. It's dated 6 months ago. I read it aloud. Elliot, the plan is working perfectly. Lucille suspects nothing, and her father's health is declining rapidly. Once he's gone, we'll have access to everything. The key is making her think I'm helping her through the grief while we systematically drain every account. Will took the letter. This proves premeditation. They were planning your father's death. What do you mean? Look at the date. This was written the day before your father's heart attack. The implications hit me like a truck. You think I think we need to get aside and file these charges before their lawyer tries to spin this as the ravings of a mentally ill woman. The courtroom was packed. Elliot's lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit, was already at the defendant's table shuffling papers. Your Honour, he began as soon as the judge entered, My client is not present due to a family emergency, but we're prepared to proceed with the mental health evaluation of Ms. Pierce. Actually, Your Honour, Will stood up, we're here to file criminal charges against both defendants. The lawyer's face went white. What defendants? This is a civil commitment hearing. Not anymore. Will handed a stack of documents to the bailiff. We're charging Clara Pierce and Elliot Hughes with conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, and potentially murder. Murder? The judge leaned forward. We have evidence suggesting they may have hastened the death of Ms. Pierce's father to gain access to his estate. The courtroom erupted. Reporters were frantically taking notes, and Elliot's lawyer was shouting objections. Order! The judge banged his gavel. Mr. Holmes, these are serious allegations. Yes, Your Honour, we have audio recordings, financial documents, and witness testimony proving a systematic scheme to defraud Ms. Pierce and multiple elderly victims. And where are the defendants? In FBI custody at the airport. They were attempting to flee to the Cayman Islands with over $2 million in stolen funds. Elliot's lawyer stood up. Your Honour, this is clearly a desperate attempt by an unstable woman to... Sit down, the judge said sharply. Mr. Holmes, I'm dismissing the commitment petition and scheduling an emergency hearing on your criminal charges. Can you have the defendants transported here? They're already on their way, Your Honour. I felt Audrey squeeze my hand. We did it, she whispered. Not yet, I whispered back. This is just the beginning. But for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The trap they'd set for me had become their own prison. The hunter had become the hunted. The courtroom doors burst open as 2 FBI agents escorted Mom and Elliot inside. Mom looked smaller somehow. Her perfect composure finally cracked. Elliot's expensive suit was wrinkled, his hair dishevelled from whatever had happened at the airport. The defendants are present, Your Honour, Agent Martinez announced. Elliot's lawyer immediately stood up. Your Honour, I request a brief recess to confer with my clients. Denied. We're proceeding. Judge Harrison's voice was ice cold. Mr. Holmes, present your evidence. Will activated the laptop, and Elliot's voice filled the courtroom. The beauty of this plan is that even if she figures out what we did with the money, she'll be locked up in a psychiatric facility. No one believes crazy people. Mom's face went white. Elliot started whispering frantically to his lawyer. This recording was made yesterday at the defendant's residence, Will continued. Agent Martinez, would you please describe what you found when you arrested them? 2 suitcases packed with clothes and jewellery, a laptop containing account information for 14 offshore banks, and this. Agent Martinez held up a folder. A detailed plan for liquidating the victim's assets, including forged power of attorney documents. Objection! Elliot's lawyer jumped up. This evidence was obtained without a proper warrant. The defendants were fleeing the country, Agent Martinez replied. Exigent circumstances. Overruled, Judge Harrison said. Continue, Mr. Holmes. Will played the second recording. Mum's voice. And once we have guardianship, we can sell everything. The house, the remaining investments, even her car. She'll never see a penny of her father's money. I watched Mum's face crumble as her own words condemned her. Elliot was staring at the table, his jaw clenched. Your Honour, Will said, we also have evidence of additional victims. The defendants used their positions of trust to defraud multiple elderly residents. How many victims? 17 confirmed so far. Total losses exceed $2.8 million. The courtroom erupted in whispers. I saw several elderly faces in the gallery, people I recognised from Mum's volunteer work. Mrs. Patterson? I called out to one of them. An elderly woman in the 3rd row nodded tearfully. She helped me with my banking after my husband died. I trusted her completely. How much did she take? Judge Harrison asked. Everything. My savings, my husband's pension, even the money I'd set aside for my granddaughter's college. More voices joined in. She took my social security. My retirement fund. The money from selling my house. Elliot's lawyer was frantically shuffling papers. Your Honour, my clients were clearly under extreme emotional distress. Shut up! Elliot snapped at his own lawyer. He stood up, his face red with anger. You want to know the truth? Fine, she deserved it. Elliot, don't, Mum whispered. No, I'm done pretending. Lucille had everything handed to her. Rich daddy, perfect marriage, never had to work for anything. While I busted my ass trying to make something of myself, she just coasted on her family's money. So, you decided to steal it? I decided to take what should have been mine anyway. I was married to her for 8 years. I earned that money. And the elderly victims? Elliot shrugged. Clara's idea. She said they were just going to die anyway. Might as well put their money to good use. Mum was crying now, her perfect mask completely shattered. Elliot, please stop talking. Why? It's over anyway. He turned to face me directly. You think you've won? You think destroying us makes you some kind of hero? I think stealing from dying people makes you a monster. At least I'm not a pathetic little girl who runs crying to Daddy every time life gets hard. My father is dead. Yeah, and you know what? He died knowing what a disappointment you turned out to be. The courtroom went silent. Even Elliot's lawyer looked horrified. That's enough, Judge Harrison said. Mr. Hughes, you're digging your own grave. Good. At least I'll go down fighting instead of whimpering like she did. Will stood up. Your Honour, we'd like to present one final piece of evidence. A letter written by the victim's father, predicting exactly this scenario. He handed Dad's letter to the bailiff, who gave it to the judge. Judge Harrison read it silently, his expression growing darker. This letter is dated 3 years ago, he said. Mr. Pierce apparently knew his wife was planning to steal from his daughter. He set up a trust to protect me, I said. He knew Mum would try to take everything. Judge Harrison looked directly at Mum. Mrs. Pierce, your own husband predicted your betrayal. How do you respond to that? Mum finally looked up, her eyes red and swollen. He never understood me, never appreciated what I sacrificed for this family. So you decided to steal from your own daughter? I decided to take what was rightfully mine. I spent 35 years married to that man, putting up with his condescension, his control. When he died, I deserved more than the pittance he left me. He left you the house and half his assets. It wasn't enough. The simple honesty of her greed hung in the air like poison. I've heard enough, Judge Harrison said. Both defendants are remanded into custody pending trial. Bail is denied. As the bailiffs moved to handcuff them, Mum looked at me one last time. I hope you're happy, she said. You've destroyed your own family. No, I replied. You did that yourself. The gavel came down with finality. Clara Pierce, you are sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Elliot Hughes, 15 years. Both defendants will make full restitution to all victims. I sat in the front row, watching as they led Mum away in handcuffs. She didn't look back. Elliot did. His eyes found mine across the courtroom, filled with a hatred so pure it made my skin crawl. This isn't over, he mouthed. Yes, it is, I mouthed back. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Will handled most of the questions while I stood with Audrey, both of us still processing what had just happened. How does it feel to see your mother go to prison? One reporter shouted. It feels like justice, I said simply. Will you forgive her? That's not my job anymore. Mrs. Patterson approached us as the crowd thinned. She was crying, but smiling. "Thank you," she said, gripping my hands. "I thought I'd lost everything. My granddaughter can go to college now. I'm sorry it took so long to figure out what she was doing. You were grieving your father. None of us saw it coming." But I had seen it coming, hadn't I? Dad had warned me. The signs were all there. I'd just been too trusting, too broken by grief to connect the dots. "Luce," Audrey touched my arm. "There is something I need to tell you." We walked to a quiet corner of the courthouse steps. "I knew," she said. "Not everything, but I knew something was wrong. The way Mum talked about money, the way she looked at Dad's things after the funeral. I should have said something sooner. You were scared. I was a coward. I chose the easy path, and it almost cost you everything. But you chose right when it mattered. Did I? Or did I just jump to the winning side when I saw which way the wind was blowing?" I studied my sister's face. The guilt there was real, but so was the relief. "Does it matter now?" "It matters to me." "Then make it right going forward. That's all any of us can do." Will joined us, carrying a thick folder. "The restitution hearing is next week. You'll get most of your money back, plus damages." "What about the house?" "Yours. The fraudulent deed transfer has been reversed." I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt empty. "There's something else," Will continued. "The FBI found evidence that your mother may have been slowly poisoning your father." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "Small doses of digitalis in his heart medication. Not enough to kill him outright, but enough to weaken his heart over time." Audrey gasped. "She murdered him." "The DA is reviewing the evidence. There may be additional charges." I sat down hard on the courthouse steps. "She killed Dad to get his money faster. It looks that way. And I lived with her for 3 months after the funeral. Ate meals she cooked, drank coffee she made. Lucille, she could have killed me too. But she didn't. You're alive, you're free, and she's going to prison for the rest of her life." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Saw the news. Your mother got what she deserved. Proud of you. Dad's old friend from the bank." Then another. "Justice served. Your father would be proud." And another. "You did the right thing." People I hadn't heard from in years were reaching out, offering support, sharing their own stories of Clara's manipulation and greed. "She fooled a lot of people," Audrey said, reading over my shoulder. "Including us. Especially us." Raylan appeared at my elbow, carrying coffee and looking fierce. "How are you holding up?" "I honestly don't know." "That's fair. You just watched your mother get sentenced to prison for trying to destroy your life. And for murdering my father." "Allegedly murdering your father?" "Right, allegedly." We sat in silence for a while, watching people come and go from the courthouse. Normal people with normal problems, traffic tickets, custody disputes, small claims court. Their lives seemed impossibly simple compared to the wreckage of mine. "What happens now?" Audrey asked. "Now we figure out how to be a family without her," I said. "Are we still a family?" "I don't know. Do you want to be?" "Yeah, I do." "Then we are." Will cleared his throat. "There's one more thing. Your father left another letter. I was instructed to give it to you only after the legal proceedings were complete." He handed me a sealed envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper in Dad's handwriting. "My dearest Lucille, if you're reading this, then Clara showed her true nature, and you found the strength to fight back. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from her while I was alive, but I hope I've given you the tools to protect yourself now. The money isn't the real inheritance. Your strength is. Use it wisely. Build something better than what we had." All my love. Dad. I folded the letter carefully and put it in my purse. Ready to go home? Raylan asked. Yeah, I said, standing up. I'm ready. As we walked away from the courthouse, I realized something had shifted. The anger was still there and the hurt, but underneath it was something new. Peace, not forgiveness. I wasn't ready for that, might never be ready for that. But peace with the choices I'd made, the war I'd fought, the family I'd lost, and the family I'd chosen to keep. Mom had taught me that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. Dad had taught me that love sometimes means preparing for the worst. And I had learned that sometimes the only way to save yourself is to be willing to lose everything else. The sun was setting as we reached my car. Tomorrow I would start rebuilding. Tonight I was just grateful to be free.
You know what your problem is, Jennifer. You think you deserve things just because you exist. My mother-in-law's voice cut through the morning air like a blade, and I froze with my coffee cup halfway to my lips. Savannah stood in the doorway of what she still called my kitchen, despite the fact that I'd been married to her son for 3 years. My name is Jennifer, and I should have seen this coming. I'm sorry? I set the cup down carefully, buying myself time.
The lake house. Savannah glided into the kitchen wearing her signature pearls and that smile that never reached her eyes. Brent mentioned you've been asking about it again. The lake house. God, how many times had I heard about this mythical property? Savannah had been obsessing over it for months. Some sprawling estate on Lake Hartwell that had just hit the market. Every family dinner became a slideshow of real estate photos and breathless descriptions of boat docks and wine cellars.
I just thought it might be nice for the family, I said. Nice. She laughed, but it sounded like breaking glass. Darling, nice as a casserole for the church potluck. This house is a statement. It's legacy. It's... She paused, studying me like I was a stain on her marble countertop. It's not for people who don't understand what legacy means.
There it was. The orphan card. She never said it directly. Savannah was too refined for that. But the implication hung in the air like expensive perfume. Poor little Jennifer, raised in foster care, no family money, no connections, no understanding of how real families operated. Of course, I said quietly. I understand.
But I didn't understand. Not really. What I understood was that I'd spent the last 3 years trying to earn a place at their table, and every time I thought I'd made progress, someone moved the goalposts. The front door slammed, and Brent's voice echoed through the house. Mom, you here? Kitchen, sweetheart. My husband appeared in the doorway, still in his tennis whites from his morning game with his brother Brody. He kissed his mother's cheek first, always first, then gave me a distracted peck on the forehead. We were just discussing the lake house, Savannah said, her tone suddenly bright. I was explaining to Jennifer how important it is to make the right impression. Brent's eyes flicked between us, and I saw that familiar look, the one that said he was calculating which side would cause him less trouble. Right. The lake house. Your father thinks we should make an offer this week, Savannah continued, before someone else snatches it up. How much? I asked. They both looked at me like I'd asked about their sex life. That's not really your concern, is it? Savannah's smile sharpened. These kinds of decisions require perspective, experience with significant investments. Translation? Shut up, orphan girl. Brent cleared his throat. It's a big number, Jen. Like, really big. How big? 2.8, he said quietly. I nearly choked on my coffee. $2.8 million. For a vacation house.
But it's worth it, Savannah added quickly. The networking opportunities alone. Judge Murray's place is right next door. The Hendersons have the estate across the cove. These are the people who matter in this town. The people who matter. Not like me, with my state school education and my job at the nonprofit. Not like me, with no trust fund or family connections or inherited jewelry. Well, I said carefully. I hope it works out.
Savannah's laugh was musical and cruel. Oh, darling, it will work out. It has to. Your father-in-law's company needs this kind of visibility right now. The right social connections can make or break a business. She was talking about Michael's construction company, which had been struggling lately. I'd overheard enough whispered phone calls to know they were bidding on some major contract that could save everything. Speaking of which, Brent said, we should probably head out soon. Brody's expecting us for lunch. Of course. I stood up, already knowing I wasn't invited. Sunday lunches were for family. Real family. After they left, I sat alone in the kitchen that would never really be mine, staring at the real estate listing Savannah had left on the counter. The lake house was beautiful, I had to admit. Sprawling and elegant, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water and a dock that stretched into the lake like an invitation. I pulled out my phone and called Sophie, my best friend since we were kids in the system together. They're buying a $3 million house, I said without preamble. Jesus. With what money? That's what I'm wondering. Sophie was quiet for a moment. Jen, you know you don't have to take this shit forever, right? I looked around the kitchen, with its designer fixtures and family photos that didn't include me. What choice do I have? You always have choices. You just have to be brave enough to make them. After I hung up, I found myself staring at the lake house photos again. Something about it called to me. Maybe the way the light hit the water, or the promise of peace in those wide-open spaces. On impulse, I called the realtor. I'd like to schedule a viewing, I said, for the Lake Hartwell property. Wonderful. And your name? I hesitated for just a moment. Jennifer Bryant. Bryant. My maiden name. The name I'd carried before I became a Harding, before I started trying to fit into a family that would never truly accept me. The name that came with secrets they didn't know I had. The lake house was even more stunning in person. I stood on the wraparound porch, watching sunlight dance across the water, while the realtor, Janet, rattled off square footage and amenities. The previous owners spared no expense, she said, leading me through French doors into a living room that could have been featured in Architectural Digest. Custom millwork, imported marble, and that kitchen. It's perfect, I interrupted. Janet smiled. Would you like to see the master suite? Actually, I'd like to make an offer. Her eyebrows shot up. Don't you want to discuss it with your husband first? Most couples, $3 million, cash, close in 2 weeks. Janet's pen froze over her notepad. I'm sorry, did you say cash? Is that a problem? No problem at all. It's just, well, the asking price is 2.8. I know what I said. 20 minutes later, I was signing paperwork in Janet's car while she made frantic phone calls to the sellers. By the time I drove home, the house was mine. Well, technically, it belonged to the Bryant Family Trust. But that was a detail I'd worry about later. Brent was in his study when I got back, hunched over his laptop with a glass of whiskey, despite it being barely 3 o'clock. How was lunch? I asked. Fine. He didn't look up. Mom's planning some big housewarming party for when we get the lake house. She's already making lists. About that. I know what you're going to say, Jen. The money's tight right now, but Dad thinks this investment will pay off. The connections alone, I bought it. His fingers stopped moving on the keyboard. What? The lake house. I bought it this afternoon. Brent slowly turned in his chair. That's not funny. I'm not joking. Jennifer, that house costs almost $3 million. We don't have $3 million. I do. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Brent's face went through several expressions: confusion, disbelief, and finally something that looked like anger. What do you mean, you do? I mean, I have money. I've always had money. From where? My parents. He stood up so fast his chair rolled backward. Your parents died when you were 8, in a car accident. You've told me this story 100 times. They did die. But they left me a trust fund. A trust fund. His voice was flat. How much? Enough. How much, Jennifer? I met his eyes. Enough to buy the lake house without blinking. Brent stared at me like I'd grown a second head. This is insane. You've been letting my family stress about money, letting my dad worry about the business, and you've been sitting on millions? I never said I was sitting on millions. But you are. I didn't answer. Jesus Christ. He ran his hands through his hair. Do you have any idea what this means? Dad's been killing himself trying to land the Bryant Trust contract. It's the only thing that can save the company. My blood went cold. What did you say? The Bryant Trust. It's some old family foundation that invests in construction projects. Dad's been courting them for months. The room started spinning. Courting them how? Dinners? Golf games? The whole 9 yards? He even had Mom throw that charity luncheon last month hoping to impress them. Brent was pacing now. And you're telling me you could have just... What? Made a phone call? It's complicated. Complicated how?
Before I could answer, the front door opened and Savannah's voice echoed through the house. Brent, are you home? Shit, Brent muttered. She's going to flip when she finds out about the house. Finds out about what? Savannah appeared in the doorway, still in her tennis outfit, her hair perfectly styled despite the heat. Mom, sit down. I don't need to sit down. What's wrong? Jennifer bought the lake house.
Savannah's laugh was sharp and immediate. That's ridiculous. Jennifer doesn't have that kind of money. Apparently she does. The laughter died on Savannah's lips. She looked at me with new eyes, like she was seeing me for the first time. Is this true? Yes. How? Inheritance. From who? You don't have any family. The words hit like a slap, but I kept my voice steady. From my parents. Your parents were nobody, Savannah said coldly. I had you investigated before Brent married you. They were middle class at best. A teacher and an accountant. You had me investigated? Of course I did. You think I'd let my son marry just anyone? Brent looked uncomfortable. Mom. Don't mom me. This girl has been lying to us for 3 years. She turned back to me. So explain it. Where did this money come from? My father wasn't just an accountant. He managed investments for several wealthy families. When he died, some of his clients set up a trust fund for me. It wasn't entirely a lie, just not the whole truth. How much? Savannah's voice was barely a whisper. Enough. I want numbers. You're not entitled to numbers. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Savannah's face went through a series of micro-expressions before settling on something that looked like calculation.
Well, she said finally, this changes things, doesn't it? Does it? Of course it does, darling. Your family. We should have been managing this together from the beginning. Her smile was bright and sharp. When can we see the house? I thought we'd have a housewarming party, I said. Next weekend. Invite everyone. Everyone? Your friends. Dad's business associates. The whole social circle.
Savannah's eyes lit up. That's perfect. I'll handle the planning, of course. This is exactly the kind of event that requires a certain touch. Of course, I agreed. I wouldn't dream of doing it without you. After she left, Brent collapsed back into his chair. I can't believe this is happening. Which part? All of it. The money, the house, the party. He looked up at me. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have mattered? Of course it would have mattered. How? He opened his mouth, then closed it. We both knew the answer. It would have mattered because money always mattered to the Hardings. It was the only thing that had ever mattered. So what happens now? He asked. I looked out the window toward the lake, where my new house waited. Now we have a party. The week leading up to the housewarming party was a masterclass in Savannah's event planning obsession. She commandeered my kitchen, my phone, and apparently, my entire life. The caterers will arrive at 2, she announced, checking items off her color-coded list. Flowers at 3. I've arranged for valet parking because God knows half these people can't be trusted to park their own cars without scratching something. I nodded from my spot at the breakfast bar, watching her orchestrate what she kept calling the social event of the season. And Jennifer, darling, about your outfit. What about it? Well, you'll want to look the part. This isn't a backyard barbecue. These are important people. I understand. Do you? Because Judge Murray will be there, and his wife Patricia is very particular about appearances. And the Hendersons are coming, of course. David Henderson owns half the commercial real estate in the county. Sophie appeared in the doorway, carrying coffee and wearing an expression I recognized as barely contained rage. "Morning, Savannah," she said sweetly. "Still planning Jennifer's party for her?" Savannah's smile tightened. "I'm simply ensuring everything goes smoothly. This kind of event requires experience." "Right, because Jennifer's never thrown a party before." "Sophie," I warned quietly. "What?" "I'm just saying you're perfectly capable of—" "Ladies," Brent interrupted, walking in with his golf bag. "Everything okay in here?" "Perfect," Savannah said. "I was just explaining to Jennifer how crucial this party is for your father's business. The Bryant Trust representatives will be watching everything." Sophie nearly choked on her coffee. "The what now?" "The Bryant Trust," Savannah repeated slowly, like Sophie was dim. "They're considering a major investment in Michael's company. This party is essentially an audition." I felt the blood drain from my face. Sophie was staring at me with wide eyes. "An audition for what?" Sophie asked. "To prove we're the kind of family they want to do business with. Stable, established, connected." Savannah's voice took on that lecturing tone she used when she thought she was educating the less fortunate. "These old money families are very particular about who they associate with." "Old money," Sophie repeated flatly. "Generational wealth. The kind of people who understand legacy and tradition." Savannah glanced at me. "Not everyone can appreciate what that means." The kitchen fell silent except for the ticking of the antique clock on the wall. "I should go," Brent said, hefting his golf bag. "Brody's waiting." After he left, Savannah continued her planning assault while Sophie and I exchanged loaded glances. "I need some air," I said finally. Sophie followed me onto the back patio, closing the door behind us. "Please tell me you're not thinking what I think you're thinking," she said. "I don't know what you mean." "Jennifer, the Bryant Trust? Are you kidding me right now?" "It's complicated." "It's not complicated. It's insane." Sophie grabbed my arm. "You cannot let them throw a party to impress you. Do you understand how messed up that is? They don't know it's me. That makes it worse." "Does it? Or does it make it perfect?" Sophie stared at me. "Perfect for what?" Before I could answer, the patio door opened and Savannah stepped out. "Jennifer, the florist is on the phone. She needs to confirm the arrangement for the entrance hall." "I'll be right there." Savannah lingered for a moment, studying us both. "Is everything all right? You both look tense." "Just party nerves," I said. "Oh, darling, don't be nervous. This is your moment to shine, to show everyone what kind of woman my son married." Her smile was sharp. "Though I do hope you'll remember that first impressions matter, especially with people like the Bryant Trust representatives." After she went back inside, Sophie turned to me. "You have to tell them." "No." "Jennifer." "No." "Do you know what she just said to me? Your moment to shine. Like I'm some kind of performing monkey. So prove her wrong. Tell them the truth." "The truth is that I've spent 3 years being treated like a charity case by these people. The truth is that Brent's mother had me investigated like I was some kind of criminal. The truth is that they only care about me now because they think I might be useful." Sophie was quiet for a long moment. "What are you planning?" "I'm planning to give them exactly what they want." "Which is?" a party they'll never forget. That evening, I was in my room getting ready for bed when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It's time. Show them who you really are. Mary Lee. I stared at the message, my heart pounding. Mary Lee was the Hardings' housekeeper, a quiet woman who'd worked for the family for over 20 years. She'd always been kind to me, but we'd never exchanged more than pleasantries. I typed back, "How did you get this number?" The response came immediately. "I know more than they think I do. About you, about your family, about what they're really after." My hands were shaking as I typed, "What do you mean?" "Tomorrow, after the party starts, meet me in the kitchen. There are things you need to know before you make your move." What move? The one you've been planning since the day you walked into this house. The one they've been setting up for 3 years without realizing it. I set the phone down and walked to my window, looking out at the lights of the city below. Tomorrow, Savannah would have her perfect party. All the right people would be there, drinking expensive wine and eating fancy hors d'oeuvres in the house I'd bought. The house they thought belonged to their son. The house that was actually owned by the very trust fund they were so desperate to impress. My phone buzzed again. "They never asked the right questions about your parents, Jennifer. They never wondered why 2 middle-class people would have connections to set up a trust fund. They never thought to dig deeper." What should they have found? That your father didn't just manage money for wealthy families. He managed money for their family. And when he died, he made sure you'd be taken care of, even if it took 30 years for you to claim what was always yours. I dropped the phone. The Bryant Trust wasn't just my inheritance, it was my revenge. The party was in full swing by 7 o'clock. Savannah had outdone herself. The lake house looked like something from a magazine spread, with white roses everywhere and string lights reflecting off the water. Servers in crisp uniforms circulated with champagne and those tiny appetizers that cost more per bite than most people's lunch. I stood on the deck watching Savannah work the crowd like a conductor leading an orchestra. She'd positioned herself near the entrance, greeting each guest with air kisses and strategic introductions. "Jennifer, darling, you look lovely," she said when I approached. She was wearing a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my car payment, and her smile was bright enough to power the house. "Have you met Patricia Murray? Judge Murray's wife?" Patricia was a thin woman with silver hair and the kind of jewelry that whispered rather than shouted. "What a beautiful home," she said, shaking my hand. "You must be so proud." "Thank you. We're very happy here." "And the location is perfect," Patricia continued. "Right next to the Henderson estate. David was just telling Abraham how impressed he is with the renovations." Savannah practically glowed. "Jennifer has such wonderful taste. Though, of course, Brent handled all the business aspects. Men are so much better with those kinds of details." I smiled and nodded, playing my part. "Speaking of business," Patricia said, lowering her voice, "Abraham mentioned that Michael is hoping to connect with some new investors tonight." "The Bryant Trust," Savannah confirmed. "Very exclusive. Old money, you know. They're considering a significant partnership with Michael's company." "How exciting. Are they here tonight?" "We're expecting their representatives any moment." I excused myself and found Sophie by the bar, looking uncomfortable in her cocktail dress. "This is surreal," she muttered, accepting a glass of wine from the bartender. "I keep waiting for someone to ask me to clear their plates." "You look beautiful." "I look like I'm playing dress-up." She glanced around at the crowd. "These people have no idea, do they?" "None." "Jennifer!" Brody appeared beside us, already on his second or third drink, judging by his flushed face. "Great party, sis. Mom really outdid herself." "She did." "Dad's over there talking to Judge Murray about the Bryant Trust thing. He's nervous as hell." Brody laughed. "I told him to relax. Money talks, right? And these trust fund people love a good investment opportunity."
Sophie made a choking sound and covered it with a cough. "You okay?" Brody asked. "Fine. Just went down wrong. Anyway," Brody continued, I'm just glad we finally have something to offer these people. No offense, Jennifer, but marrying into the family was great and all, but it's not like you brought anything to the table, you know. The words hit like a physical blow, but I kept my expression neutral. Of course.
I mean, don't get me wrong, you're nice and everything, but nice doesn't pay the bills, right? He clapped me on the shoulder. Good thing you landed Brent. Guy's got a good heart, taking care of you like that. Sophie's grip on her wine glass was so tight I thought it might shatter. Excuse me, I said quietly, and walked away before I said something I'd regret. I found Mary Lee in the kitchen, efficiently directing the catering staff. She looked up when I entered, her weathered face kind but serious. Mrs. Jennifer, you got my message. What did you mean about my parents? Mary Lee glanced around, then motioned me toward the pantry where we couldn't be overheard. Your daddy worked for Mr. Michael's father, she said quietly. Back in the 80s. Managed the family investments, kept their books clean when things got complicated. Complicated how? The kind of complicated that rich families don't like to talk about. Tax problems, partnership disputes, money that needed to disappear for a while. Mary Lee's voice was barely above a whisper. Your daddy knew where all the bodies were buried, so to speak. My stomach dropped. Are you saying... I'm saying when your parents died, it wasn't just tragic. It was convenient. For some people. That's impossible. It was a car accident. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. But your daddy was smart. He set up that trust before he died. Made sure you'd be taken care of. Made sure you'd have power when you were old enough to use it. Power over what? Over them. The Bryant Trust holds the mortgage on this house, the loans for Mr. Michael's business, the investments that keep this whole family afloat. Mary Lee's eyes were steady on mine. You don't just own this house, child. You own them. The kitchen door swung open and Brent appeared, looking harried. There you are. Mom's looking for you. She wants to do the toast. I followed him back to the main room, my mind reeling. The crowd had gathered around the fireplace where Savannah stood with a champagne flute, commanding attention like she was born to it. Friends, family, honored guests, she began, her voice carrying across the room. Welcome to our beautiful new home. Our home. Not my home. Our home. This house represents everything we value: family, tradition, and the importance of knowing where you belong. Her eyes found mine across the room. Some of us are blessed to be born into legacy. Others, she paused, her smile sharpening. Others have to earn their place. A few people chuckled. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. My daughter-in-law Jennifer has certainly earned her place in our family. From humble beginnings, she was raised in foster care, you know. She's worked so hard to become the woman she is today. The room was silent except for the soft clink of glasses and the distant sound of water lapping against the dock. It's inspiring, really, to see someone rise above their circumstances, to find a family that can give them the stability and guidance they never had growing up. Savannah's voice was honey over broken glass. Jennifer may not have been born with advantages, but she's learned to appreciate them. Haven't you, dear? Every eye in the room was on me. I could feel their pity, their condescension, their satisfaction at being reminded of their own superiority. Of course, I said quietly. So let's raise our glasses to Jennifer, and to the power of family to lift up those who need it most. The toast echoed around the room, but the words felt like stones. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The Bryant Trust representatives have arrived. They're waiting in the study. I looked up to find Savannah watching me expectantly, along with everyone else. Actually, I said, my voice carrying clearly across the room, before we finish the toast, there's something I need to share. Savannah's smile faltered slightly. Oh? About the house, and about the Bryant Trust. The room went completely silent. You see, there's been a small misunderstanding. I reached into my purse and pulled out a manila folder, the one I'd been carrying around all week like a talisman. The room was so quiet I could hear the ice melting in people's drinks. "The deed to this house," I said, opening the folder, "isn't in Brent's name." Savannah's champagne flute froze halfway to her lips. "What do you mean?" "I mean the legal owner of this property is the Bryant Family Trust." I held up the documents, which, as it happens, I control. The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Judge Murray stepped forward, his face pale. "Did you say Bryant Family Trust?" "I did." That's impossible," Michael stammered from across the room. "We've been trying to reach the Bryant Trust for months. They won't even return our calls." "Actually, they have been returning your calls." I smiled. "Through their legal representatives, every proposal, every dinner invitation, every golf game invitation, it all came across my desk." Brent was staring at me like I'd grown horns. "Jennifer, what are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that your family has spent the last 6 months trying to impress me without knowing it." I turned to address the room. "My maiden name is Bryant. My parents established the trust before they died. I've been the primary beneficiary since I turned 21. Patricia Murray gasped. "You're the Bryant Trust?" "I am the Bryant Trust." The room erupted. Voices overlapped. Champagne glasses clinked against each other as people gestured, and I caught fragments of conversation. "Can't be serious. All this time. Why didn't she say—" Savannah's voice cut through the chaos like a knife. "This is ridiculous. Jennifer doesn't have that kind of money." "Actually, I do." I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, turning the screen toward the room. "Would you like to see the balance?" Several people leaned forward. Someone whistled low. "Holy shit," Brody breathed. "Language," Savannah snapped automatically, but her face had gone white. Michael pushed through the crowd, his hands shaking. "Jennifer, if this is true, the proposals we sent, I've read them all. Very thorough, very desperate." "Desperate?" His voice cracked. "The company's hemorrhaging money, Michael. The Bryant Trust has been your only hope for months." I closed the folder. "And you've been courting your own daughter-in-law." "This is insane," Brent said. "Why didn't you tell us?" "When? When your mother had me investigated like a criminal? When your brother just told me I brought nothing to the table? When you all spent 3 years making sure I knew exactly how little I mattered?" Savannah recovered first, her social training kicking in. "Well, this is wonderful news. Jennifer, darling, we had no idea. This changes everything, of course." "Does it?" "Of course it does. Your family. We should have been working together from the beginning." Her smile was bright and desperate. "Think of what we could accomplish now that we know the truth." "You mean now that you know I'm useful?" "That's not fair, isn't it?" I looked around the room at all the faces staring back at me. Some shocked, some calculating, some openly greedy. 5 minutes ago, I was the poor little orphan who needed to be grateful for your charity. Now I'm family again. Judge Murray cleared his throat. "Jennifer, about the business proposals. What about them?" "Well, given the family connection, perhaps we could discuss terms more informally." "You mean give you a deal because I married your friend's son?" "I mean recognize that family takes care of family." I laughed, and the sound was sharper than I intended. "Family. Right." Sophie appeared at my elbow, her face flushed with anger. "Maybe we should go." "No," I said firmly. "I'm not done." Savannah stepped forward, her composure cracking. "Jennifer, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We've always welcomed you. Have you? Because I distinctly remember you telling me just last week that I don't understand what legacy means. I was trying to help. You were trying to put me in my place, the same place you've been trying to keep me for 3 years." I turned to address the entire room. "You want to know about legacy? About understanding what family means?" The crowd waited. My father managed investments for wealthy families his entire career. He was honest, hardworking, and loyal. When he died, his clients, people who respected him, set up a trust to take care of his daughter. That's legacy. Jennifer, Brent started. I'm not finished. My voice was steady now, controlled. For 3 years, I've watched this family stress about money while sitting on the solution. I've listened to you talk about the importance of connections while treating me like I didn't matter. I've smiled and nodded while you made jokes about my background and my worth. Michael stepped forward, his face desperate. If we've made mistakes, you haven't made mistakes, Michael. You've made choices. Every snide comment, every exclusion, every reminder that I didn't belong. Those were choices. What do you want? Savannah's voice was barely controlled. I want what I've always wanted. Respect. You have it. Do I? Because 5 minutes ago, your son told me I brought nothing to the table. Your other son has spent 3 years treating me like hired help. And you... I turned to face Savannah directly. You just gave a toast about how generous your family is for taking in a poor orphan. The room was dead silent. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. The Bryant Trust will consider Michael's proposals, but the terms have changed. What terms? Michael asked quietly. You want my money? You apologize. Publicly. All of you. For 3 years of treating me like I was beneath you. Jennifer, Brent said, you're being unreasonable. Am I? Or am I finally being reasonable for the first time since I walked into this family? Savannah's mask finally slipped completely. You can't be serious. Try me. The standoff stretched between us like a wire. Around the room, guests shifted uncomfortably, some already edging toward the door.
Fine, Savannah said through gritted teeth. I apologize. For what? For not appreciating your contributions to the family. Not good enough. Her jaw clenched. For treating you poorly. Still not good enough. What do you want me to say? I want you to say what you mean, what you've always meant.
Savannah's composure cracked completely. Fine. I'm sorry I treated you like you didn't belong here. I'm sorry I made you feel small. I'm sorry I never thought you were good enough for my son. Her voice rose with each word. Is that what you wanted to hear? It's a start. That's when my phone rang. The phone's shrill ring cut through the tension like a blade. I glanced at the screen. My lawyer's office. Excuse me, I said, stepping away from the crowd. This is important. Jennifer, don't you dare. Savannah started. I held up a hand and answered. Hello? Ms. Bryant? This is David from Richardson and Associates. I'm calling about the Henderson property acquisition you asked us to expedite. My blood went cold. I'd forgotten about that completely. Can this wait? I'm afraid not. The sellers are demanding an answer tonight, and there's been a complication. Someone else has made a competing offer. I could feel every eye in the room on me, but the conversation was too important to ignore. How much? $4.2 million. Cash. The number hit me like a physical blow. I'd been planning to buy the Henderson estate next door as a surprise for Brent, thinking it would be a peace offering after tonight's revelations. Now someone was trying to outbid me. Who's the other buyer? I can't disclose that information, but they're local. The offer came in an hour ago. I looked up to find Brent watching me with an expression I couldn't read. I'll call you back. Jennifer, we need an answer by midnight or... I hung up and turned back to the room. The party guests were still there, but the energy had shifted. People were whispering, checking their phones, and I caught several pointed looks in my direction. Everything all right? Judge Murray asked. Fine. Just business. Savannah's laugh was bitter. Business? Of course, because that's what this is all about, isn't it? Money and power. Says the woman who just spent 10 minutes begging for both. I wasn't begging. You were groveling. I looked around the room. You all were. That's when I noticed Tiffany standing near the back of the crowd. Brent's ex-girlfriend, the one who'd somehow remained close to the family despite their breakup. She was smiling, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Tiffany," I said, "I didn't realize you were here. Wouldn't miss it for the world." She stepped forward, her phone in her hand. "This has been absolutely fascinating." "Has it?" "Oh yes, especially the part where you humiliated your own family in front of half the town." She held up her phone. "I got it all on video." The room went dead silent. "You recorded this?" Brent asked. "Every word. From the trust fund revelation to Savannah's little breakdown." Tiffany's smile widened. "This is going to be all over social media by morning." "Delete it," Savannah said sharply. "I don't think so. This is news. The mysterious Bryant Trust finally revealed. Family drama, public apologies. It's got everything." "Tiffany," I said carefully, "what do you want?" "What do I want?" She laughed. "I want what everyone in this room wants. A piece of the pie." "Meaning?" "Meaning I know you're about to make some very expensive decisions. The Henderson property, for instance." My stomach dropped. "How do you know about that?" "Because I'm the one who made the competing offer." The room erupted again, but this time the voices were angry, confused, desperate. "That's impossible," Michael said. "You don't have that kind of money." "Don't I?" Tiffany's smile was sharp. "Funny thing about being close to a family for years, you learn things, like where they keep their important documents, like offshore account numbers, like which investments are about to pay off big." Brent stepped forward, his face pale. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that your family isn't as broke as they pretend to be. They're just broke in the right places." She turned to Michael. "Tell them about the Cayman accounts, Michael. Tell them about the money you've been hiding from the IRS." "That's enough," Michael said sharply. "Is it? Because I think Jennifer deserves to know exactly what kind of family she married into." Tiffany's voice was sweet poison. "Did you know your father-in-law has been laundering money through construction projects for years? Did you know the Bryant Trust isn't the only trust he's been courting?" "You're lying," Savannah said, but her voice shook. "Am I? Check your husband's phone. Check the messages from his business partners in Miami." I looked at Michael, whose face had gone gray. "Is this true?" "It's complicated." "It's not complicated," Tiffany interrupted. "It's illegal. And now that I have proof, I'm in a position to make some demands." "What kind of demands?" I asked. "Partnership. In whatever deal you work out with the family business. I want 50%. 50% of what?" "Of everything. The trust, the construction company, the real estate deals. All of it." Brent was staring at Tiffany like he'd never seen her before. "You're blackmailing us." "I'm negotiating. There's a difference." "Not really," Sophie said quietly. She'd been so silent I'd almost forgotten she was there. "Blackmail is blackmail." "Stay out of this," Tiffany snapped. "This doesn't concern you." "Actually, it does." Sophie pulled out her own phone. "Because I've been recording too." The color drained from Tiffany's face. "What?" "Everything. Your little confession about the offshore accounts, the blackmail attempt, the illegal access to private documents." Sophie's smile was cold. "I may not have money, but I know how to use a phone." "You can't." "I already did. Sent it to my cloud storage, my email, and about 5 other places." Sophie looked at me. "Insurance policy." The room was chaos now. Voices overlapping, accusations flying, and through it all, I could hear my phone buzzing with calls and texts. Word was getting out, and fast. "Enough!" I shouted, and everyone fell silent. "Everyone out. Now." "Jennifer," Brent started. I said everyone. "This party is over." People began filing out, some quickly, others lingering to catch more drama. Within 10 minutes, the house was empty except for family and Sophie. Well, Savannah said bitterly, I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything. Have I? Or have I just revealed what was already there? What happens now? Michael asked quietly. I looked around at the faces staring back at me. My husband, who'd never really defended me. His mother, who'd spent 3 years making me feel worthless. His father, who apparently had been hiding criminal activity. And his brother, who'd never seen me as anything more than a burden.
Now, I said, we find out what family really means. My phone rang again. This time I didn't answer. The next morning I woke up alone. Brent's side of the bed was cold, and his overnight bag was gone from the closet. I found a note on the kitchen counter. Staying at Mom's until we figure this out. B. Sophie was already there, making coffee and scrolling through her phone.
It's everywhere, she said without looking up. Local news, social media, even the business journals picked it up. Mystery trust fund heiress revealed at lake house party. What are they saying? Mixed reviews. Some people think you're a hero for standing up to them. Others think you're a vindictive bitch who humiliated her own family. She looked up. The comments section is brutal. My phone had been buzzing nonstop since 6 a.m. Reporters, lawyers, business associates, and people I hadn't heard from in years. I'd turned it off after the 15th call. Any word from Brent? Radio silence. But Brody posted something on Instagram. She showed me her screen. Quote, when people show you who they really are, believe them the first time. Subtle. About as subtle as a brick through a window. Sophie poured me coffee. What's the plan? Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see a black sedan in the driveway. Lawyers, I muttered. But when I opened the door, it was Tiffany. She looked like she hadn't slept, her usually perfect hair disheveled and her makeup smudged. We need to talk, she said. I don't think we do. Please, 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I let her in. Sophie immediately positioned herself between us, arms crossed. I want to make a deal, Tiffany said. You're not in a position to make deals, aren't I? Because last I checked, I still have information that could destroy Michael's business completely. And I have video of you admitting to blackmail and theft. Mutually assured destruction, then. Tiffany sat down uninvited. Look, I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want what's fair. Fair, Sophie laughed. You tried to extort money from people at a party. I tried to get compensation for years of being used by this family. Tiffany's voice cracked slightly. Do you know what it's like to be kept around as a backup plan? To watch the man you love marry someone else while his mother keeps telling you to be patient? I stared at her. Savannah told you to wait for Brent? For 3 years. She kept saying the marriage wouldn't last, that you'd never fit in, that eventually he'd come to his senses. Tears started running down her cheeks. I wasted 3 years of my life waiting for him to leave you. That's not my fault. Isn't it? You knew he didn't love you. Not really. You knew this whole family was using you. But you stayed anyway because you liked the idea of belonging somewhere. The words hit harder than I expected. Get out. I'm not wrong, am I? You could have left any time. You had the money, the power, the independence. But you stayed because being treated badly by a family was better than having no family at all. I said get out. Fine. But think about what I said. Tiffany stood up. And think about this. If you destroy Michael's business, you're not just hurting him. You're hurting everyone who works for him. 43 employees, Jennifer. People with families, mortgages, kids in college. After she left, Sophie and I sat in silence for a long time. She's not wrong, Sophie said finally. About what? About the employees. About you staying when you could have left. She turned to face me. Why did you stay, Jen? Really? I stared out at the lake, watching the morning light dance on the water. because I thought if I tried hard enough, if I was good enough, they'd eventually accept me. And now? Now I know they never would have. Not unless I had something they needed.
My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check your email. Mary Lee. I opened my laptop and found a message with several attachments. Financial records, legal documents, and a letter addressed to me. What is it? Sophie asked.
I opened the letter and read aloud. If you're reading this, then the truth has finally come out. Your father suspected something might happen to him, so he made arrangements. The Bryant Trust was never just about taking care of you. It was about giving you the power to seek justice when the time came. Justice for what? I scrolled through the financial records. For this. Michael's father didn't just employ my dad, he killed him. Sophie's coffee mug hit the floor and shattered. It wasn't a car accident, I continued reading. Your father discovered that Robert was embezzling from client accounts, using the construction business to launder money. When your father threatened to expose him, Robert arranged the accident. I have proof. The room was spinning. Mary Lee has been sitting on this for 23 years. Why didn't she come forward? Because she was scared. But now? I looked at the final document. Now she's giving me everything I need to destroy them completely. The front door opened and Brent walked in, looking haggard. We need to talk, he said. Do we? Jennifer, please. This has gone too far. Has it? Because I'm just getting started. He saw the documents spread across the table. What's all this? Evidence. That your grandfather murdered my parents. Brent's face went white. That's impossible. Is it? Because it explains a lot. Why your family was so interested in keeping me close. Why they never wanted me to dig too deep into my past. Why they were so desperate to access the Bryant Trust. You're talking about my family. I'm talking about murderers. Stop. His voice was sharp. Just stop. You're destroying everything. The business, the family, our marriage. For what? Revenge? For justice. It's the same thing. No, it's not. Isn't it? Because from where I'm standing, you look like someone who's enjoying watching everything burn. I stood up slowly. You want to know what I'm enjoying, Brent? I'm enjoying watching you finally show me who you really are. Not the man who pretended to love me. Not the husband who let his family treat me like garbage for 3 years. But the real you. The one who's more concerned about protecting murderers than supporting his wife. They're not murderers. Prove it.
He couldn't. We both knew he couldn't. I want a divorce, he said quietly. Good. Because you can't have both me and them. And you've already made your choice. After he left, I sat alone with the evidence spread before me. Sophie had gone to make phone calls. Lawyers, reporters, anyone who would listen. My phone rang. Michael. Jennifer, please. We need to talk. Do we? I know what you think you know, but I know your father killed my parents. I know you've been laundering money for years. I know you married me to your son, hoping to get access to my trust fund. My voice was steady, cold. What else is there to talk about? Mercy, he said quietly. I'm talking about mercy. Did your father show my parents mercy? The line went quiet. I'll see you in court, Michael.
I hung up and walked out onto the deck. The lake was calm, reflecting the sky like a mirror. In a few hours, this would all be public. The Harding family would be destroyed, their business ruined, their reputation in tatters. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt empty. The courtroom was packed. I sat in the front row, watching Michael's lawyer shuffle through papers while the prosecutor laid out the case. 23 years of buried evidence, financial records, and Mary Lee's testimony had built an airtight case. The defendant used his construction company as a front for money laundering operations spanning 2 decades, the prosecutor said. When Thomas Bryant threatened to expose these crimes, the defendant arranged his death, Michael looked smaller than I remembered, hunched over the defense table in a suit that seemed too big for him. Savannah sat behind him, her face a mask of controlled devastation. The judge called for a recess, and I stepped outside for air. Sophie was waiting on the courthouse steps. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I'm fine. Are you?" Before I could answer, someone called my name. I turned to see a woman in her 40s approaching, flanked by 2 teenagers. "Ms. Bryant? I'm Carol Martinez. I worked for Michael's company." My stomach dropped. "I'm sorry about your job." "That's not why I'm here." She gestured to the teenagers. "These are my kids, Maria and David. I wanted them to meet you." "I don't understand. 3 months ago, we were about to lose our house. My husband's been sick, medical bills piling up, and I was working 2 jobs just to keep us afloat." Carol's voice was steady but emotional. "Then I got a call from a lawyer saying the Bryant Trust was paying off our mortgage. Anonymous donation, they said." I stared at her. "I didn't." "You did. For all 43 families. Every employee who lost their job when the company went under got their mortgage paid off, plus a year's salary." She smiled through tears. "You could have just destroyed everything and walked away. But you didn't." The teenagers stepped forward. "Thank you," Maria said quietly, "for taking care of us." After they left, Sophie was looking at me with raised eyebrows. Anonymous donations? I had to do something. Those people didn't deserve to suffer for Michael's crimes. That's not the Jennifer who was planning revenge 3 months ago. Maybe revenge isn't as satisfying as I thought it would be. The courthouse doors opened and people began filing back in. As we walked up the steps, I saw Brent standing by the entrance. He looked like he'd aged years in the past few months. "Jennifer."
Brent, I wanted to apologize. For everything. For not defending you. For choosing them over you. For... He ran his hands through his hair. For being a coward. Okay. Is that it? Just okay? What do you want me to say? I don't know. That you forgive me? That we can try again? I looked at this man I'd been married to for 3 years. This man who'd let his family treat me like dirt. Who'd walked out when things got difficult. Who'd only come back now that the truth was out.
"I don't hate you, Brent, but I don't love you either. Not anymore." He nodded slowly. "The divorce papers are ready whenever you want to sign them." "Good." Inside, the judge was ready to deliver the verdict. Michael stood as the charges were read. Conspiracy, money laundering, and murder in the 1st degree. Guilty on all counts. Savannah's sob echoed through the courtroom. Brody, who'd been silent through the entire trial, finally broke down. Even Tiffany, sitting in the back row, was crying. I felt nothing. After the sentencing, life without parole, I walked out of the courthouse alone. The reporters were waiting, cameras flashing, questions shouted from every direction. "Ms. Bryant, how does it feel to see justice served? Are you satisfied with the verdict? What's next for the Bryant Trust?" I ignored them all and kept walking until I reached my car. Sophie caught up with me in the parking lot. "Where are you going?" "Home." "The lake house?" "No, I'm selling it. Too many memories." "Good memories or bad memories?" "Both." I drove to the lake house one last time. Mary Lee was waiting on the porch, a suitcase by her feet. "Leaving?" I asked. "Job's done. Time to move on." She handed me an envelope. "From your father. The real one this time." Inside was a single sheet of paper in my father's handwriting. "Justice isn't about revenge, Jennifer. It's about making sure the truth comes to light so it can't hurt anyone else. I hope when you read this, you'll understand the difference. Love, Dad." "He knew," I said. "He knew a lot of things, including that you'd be strong enough to handle the truth when the time came." Mary Lee picked up her suitcase. "What will you do now?" "I don't know. Start over, I guess." "Good. Starting over is underrated." After she left, I walked through the empty house one last time. The rooms that had hosted that disastrous party, where I'd revealed the truth that destroyed a family and exposed a murder, where I'd learned that revenge was a cold comfort, and that justice, while necessary, didn't fill the empty spaces in your heart. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. "Dinner tonight? My place? I'm making that pasta you like." I smiled and typed back, "Yes, I'll bring wine." As I locked the door behind me, I realized something had changed. For the first time in 3 years, maybe in my entire life, I wasn't trying to prove I belonged somewhere. I already knew where I belonged. With people who chose to love me, not people who had to be forced to respect me. With friends who stood by me when things got ugly, not family who only valued me when I was useful. With a future I could build myself, not a past I had to live down. I got in my car and drove away from the lake house, away from the Harding family, away from the woman I'd been when I thought belonging meant accepting less than I deserved. The rearview mirror showed the house getting smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. I didn't look back again.